We're glad to be here at Tooele, and we welcome all of you. We look forward to a lively discussion and some presentations here this morning. So we welcome all of you here. I remind everybody that when you speak loudly, please, as you address the commission or any comments that are being made, because we are broadcasting live, and the thousands who are anxious to find us can find us on youtube.com/UtahDOT/live. So we're actually broadcasting live, so speak nice and loud so that those who are watching on the internet will be able to hear what you have to say, and we welcome you all here. Thank you very much for being here. Our first order of business, I think, is to approve minutes of our last meetings. I will entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from our April meetings. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now let's take a few minutes and have some introductions. We want to be sure that we introduce everyone here on the commission and those who are visiting, especially elected officials and our guests from UTA who are here to make a presentation. We welcome David Burton and Jerry Benson, who are here to make that presentation. They will be on our agenda shortly. We welcome you. Gail, let's start over here with you, and let's introduce the commission and then the UDOT people.
My name's Gail McKechnie. I'm a commissioner at large, and I live in DeWitt County.
I'm Commissioner Danny McConkey, and I live in Washington County. Commissioner at large.
Megan Holbrook, Salt Lake Summit and Tooele Region 2. And I'd like to recognize Lou Kramer, who will soon to be the new commissioner at large.
It's good to have Lou with us here today. My name is Kent Millington. I represent Region 3, the 6 counties across the central part of the state, from Juab to Daggett County.
Wayne Barlow, I represent Region 1, Box Elder, Cache, Rich, Morgan, Weber, and Davis counties. I live in Death Valley.
Nagi Zinadi from sunny and warm St. George. I represent Region 4, includes 14 counties, or remaining counties in the state of Utah.
Carlos, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carlos Braceros, Executive Director of the department. And would you like us to introduce the rest of the staff?
Yes, let's do that, but let's first recognize Heather Barthold over here, without whom this would never function. We wouldn't know what to do. So Heather, thank you very much for the work that you do. Carlos?
Shane Marshall, Deputy Director with UDOT.
Matt Allred, Communications with UDOT.
Robert Miles, UDOT Traffic Safety.
Jason Davis, Operations Director.
Randy Clark, Project Development.
Brian Adams, Region 2.
Lisa Wilson, Region 2.
Chris Peterson, Region 1. Bill Lawrence, UDOT Programming. Bob Billing, SIP Coordinator.
David Schwartz, Region 2.
Matt Swab, I'm with Aeronautics.
Linda Hull, Legislative Director.
Lyle McMillan, Real Estate.
Diane McGuire, Corridor Preservation Fund.
I believe that, did we miss anyone?
Becky Nix, UDOT Structures.
All right, thank you very much. I believe we've got Mayor back there. Introduce yourself, please.
Which one?
Both of you, actually.
I'm Patrick Dunleavy. I'm the mayor of Tooele City. Welcome to the great city of Tooele.
Thank you for having us here.
I'm Brent Marshall, Mayor of Grantsville City. Welcome to our valley.
Thank you. Any other elected officials that are with us? Again, we recognize. Oh, please.
I'm Jewel Allen. I'm Grantsville City Council.
Thank you for being here. We do recognize David Burton and Jerry Benson, who are from UTA and will be presenting to us. We also have Andrew, why don't you stand and introduce yourself?
I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm the Executive Director of the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Good to have you here. And then we've got two from Federal Highways, Ivan Marrero, Brigitte Mandel. We appreciate the partnership that we have with you. Welcome. We'll hear from you a little later as well. Lou, we're going to prevail on you to address the commission just briefly. I know you're not officially on the commission yet, but I was present when the nominating committee gave him a unanimous endorsement. So we expect that the state senate will do likewise. Please, Lou, we're glad to have you here and welcome you. Please address us briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be here. I was thinking this day was an opening prayer. I mean, I wasn't sure what we have to do, but I'm honored to have this nomination by the governor, and the committee was very gracious and endorsed that, and I think the Senate will vote on it next week. So I'm not going to presume anything other than the fact that I'm here to serve the great state of Utah, and I'm delighted by the talent that I've seen in the UDOT and the opportunity. I've worked with Carlos for many years on various projects with Bishop Burton and others, so I'm delighted to be part of this, and whatever we can do. I spent most of my career riding on roads in California, Washington, D.C., and Arizona, and this is heaven on earth in Utah. So thanks for the great work.
Thank you, Lou. We look forward to being able to work with you. I believe next we have a presentation from Region 2. Brian, are you going to lead out, or is Dave going to do that?
I'll take just a second. I'm going to welcome everybody to Tooele and Region 2. We had a great tour yesterday and just wanted to thank all of our elected officials that could join us yesterday. They're very passionate about transportation in Tooele County, and we appreciate that. So we're going to have Dave Swartz, our program manager, will be doing the presentation for us this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good to be with you again today. Enjoyed the trip that we had yesterday, the tour that we had yesterday here in Tooele County with you. It's great to get acquainted with you a little bit on those tours. My presentation today, I want to talk about basically 3 or 4 areas. I want to talk about what we've done in Tooele County here recently, some of the things that we're currently doing, and then some of the future needs. We heard from the county and the cities here in Tooele County yesterday, some of the future needs that they have that we're working with them and looking at. And then also to finish up, to talk a little bit about where we're at on some of the major projects in Region 2. Which button is the right button on this one? Go. Under the wheel. There we go. So in the past, since we were here in Tooele County last, project funding that we've had since 2014, we've done just under $50 million worth of projects. And in 2016 here, we have another $12 million worth of projects that we're doing in Tooele County. Some of those projects we heard about yesterday. Some of them are way out on I-80 that we didn't get a chance to visit. Also, we've been doing some medians on SR 36, and one of the bigger ones that we talked about and drove through yesterday was the project here in Tooele City itself on SR 36 that they're still continuing to work on. I just want to talk a little bit more about the project on SR 36. This project started last year. We will finish it this year. And I want to give a kudos to the city here in Tooele. The city staff, mayor, council have been very supportive of this project, working with the businesses, working with us, and it's made the project and process go a whole lot smoother than I had originally expected, because when you're tearing up the main street of a town, which is their lifeblood to all their commerce. It's a big impact, and it was a big impact for them, but I think we were getting through it very well. We've done a lot of the work. We still have some items left to do, as you can see there. I don't read slides. Just want to let you know that that's still ongoing and they're working hard to get it done. So we look forward to having that completely done and to give this Main Street back to Tooele City this year. I keep pushing the right button. Okay, we're also working with Tooele County and cities, Grantsville and other cities here in the valley on several different items that they need. We heard a lot about some of the items yesterday. We heard about Mid-Valley Highway. We heard about Main Street in Grantsville. There's other needs that they have here. But the one that I want to kind of talk about and highlight today, just that we talked about briefly, is the 201 extension. Now this is a need that's been brought to us. We're listening to the county. This has not been developed in deep form. We are just looking at a problem that we have out here and coming up with solutions. The 201 extension is one of those solutions to help solve the problem on I-80. When there's a crash on I-80, we get a lot of backup, and this picture kind of shows what the issue is. When there is a crash, it backs up, it becomes a parking lot. I believe we heard the county commissioner say that you're sitting there for 4 hours. There's really no other way around the valley, and I'll back up a slide, except to go out, down through Region 3 and up to Salt Lake to get there, and that's an hour and 37 minutes today when there's no traffic. So you can probably double that when there's a crash on I-80. So this is a problem that we have out here with just having the one access to Salt Lake Valley. That we feel like this is a possible solution that we want to continue to look at and figure out what the ins and outs are on it so that we can maybe bring this forward at a future date to the commission to fund. Then to just talk about some other projects that we have going on in the region. Mountain View Corridor is a big project that we have going on. The dirt is moving right now on Mountain View Corridor. This is between 54th and 41st in the Salt Lake Valley. People are looking forward to having this project done. Every meeting I go to with the cities, I get asked about this project. Citizens are asking me about the project. They see a value in that, and so they're excited to have this. And so we're moving on that project, and it should be complete towards the end of 2017 for that portion to 41st South. Another project that we've just started, and you can see some barrels on I-215 right now. It's I-215 between 47th South and 201. The pavement out there is in very poor shape. We're reconstructing that pavement. We're going to add auxiliary lanes between the interchanges, both northbound and southbound on that road. Also, we're going to be widening some bridges. 35th is one of those bridges that we're going to widen, so it's going to impact that road underneath as well. And also we're looking to work on 47th. That's that road out there in front of Federal Highways, and a road that we're all familiar with. When you go to the complex, that's one of the roads that you take. But we're looking to make the improvements there at the interchange of 215 to help that flow a little bit better, instead of having a weave when you're going eastbound to northbound. We're looking to see if we can't make it go straight through to get onto that ramp rather than having to jog over real quick underneath the bridge. Like I said, that project is going, and they have a really aggressive schedule. That construction schedule's showing till October of next year. but the preliminary schedule is showing that we're going to be done in the summer of next year. So looking forward to having that done. Luckily, so far the impacts haven't been that great, but there's more to come, I'm sure. Another project that we have underway is our next in grade separation projects on Bangor Highway. The 600 West project we procured the contractor. They're turning in their first design submittal on this design build package today, and they're looking to be out moving dirt starting next week is what I'm being told. So this is another project that we're seeing a lot of benefits by doing these grade separated interchanges, not just on Bangor itself, but on the east-west roads that connect as well. To continue on with our Bangor theme, we're currently just finishing up our environmental process on the next 4 projects that we have scheduled for the Bangor interchanges at 54th, 70th, 90th, and 114th. The environmental document has been signed for 70th South, 114th and 90th. The drafts are in and going over to be signed, and then 54th we still have a public meeting that we still have to go. That's this month, but we should be done with all these documents the end of May, 1st of June time frame. And so at the same time we're working on procuring, we've got a program manager on board, and we're looking to put the documents together for the design build contractor. So we're moving on this project pretty aggressively. We want to be under construction next summer and for the next 2 summers. Redwood Road between 126th and Bangor is another project that we're in the environmental phase on and working on getting prepared to acquire the right-of-way. As you can see there, the shaded green areas are the right-of-way that we're going to be acquiring. Once again, when the cities are supportive and step up and help us, it makes the process go much, much better. And the City of Riverton has been fantastic in supporting us on this project. Actually, all the cities we work with are really quite fantastic and supportive of the projects we do. I shouldn't be singling out the cities because we really don't have bad experiences with our partners. But this project is looking to be under construction next year as well, 2017. Another project that we're in the environmental phase on is 104 South, improvements between Redwood and I-15. We're in the environmental phase on this. We're looking to add a lane in each direction. And this is a $15 million project. And this project is also looking to be under construction in 2017. I don't know if you're catching a theme here. I've got one more to go, but 2017 and 2018 is a big year in Region 2. We have the opportunity to help our transportation system out a lot in Region 2. Over the next 5 years, just the capacity projects alone, we're doing over $1 billion in Region 2. So with that blessing of the money to help the transportation system comes the curse of having road closures and headaches that way. But we're looking forward to the challenge and working to educate the public on what's going to go on. The last project that I want to bring you up to date on is our I-15 project that the Commission has funded for $175 million. It's southbound between 201 and 123rd South. We're going to add a lane, general purpose lane on that corridor. We looked at this project and there's huge cost to benefit ratio on this project. And so we're really looking forward to the positive outcome that it'll give. We are in the process of the environmental document currently. We have a document out on the street right now to procure that consultant for that, help with that document. And we are hoping to have that document done and to be under construction in 2018 is when we want to start turning dirt on that, is the hope. So like I said, 2017, 2018, even this year, we're starting to ramp up. We've been given a great opportunity to help with our transportation system in the Salt Lake Valleys and Twillen. So that's all I have. If there's any questions that.
Well, yeah, not quite a question, but, and Brian may want to, if you just look at the map, it looks like everything's on the west side. There's a reason for that. The other thing is when you say the transportation system, we're talking about our coordination with UTA on transit with a lot of these roads. Can you just comment briefly on that?
On looking like they're on the west side of the valley?
Not looking.
Well,
they are.
Those major capacity projects are on the west side of the valley. We have other choke point projects. I just highlighted the big projects.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've got some capacity projects that we're looking at on the east side where we have some choke points. We also have our pavement preservation. We've got some studies going on I-80 from I-15 to the mouth of the canyon that we're looking at. We see that as another big issue that we need to take care of. We're not ignoring the east side. Just happens to be that right now the west side's getting hit, but we are looking at, we can't build ourselves out of what's coming to the Salt Lake Valley with the transportation. We have to work with UTA on that. I know that Brian and Lisa have been working on BRT on Redwood Road. Taylorsville's looking at BRT. We've got a lot of other
Tie in with Mountain View Corridor on 56 West, which I'm sure they'll comment on.
Yeah. But we've got to work with our transit partners to do that. Brian, I don't know if you want to mention any other
Well, we
things.
want to too, though.
What's that?
We want to.
We do. We want to and we have to. It's not a choice.
Brian,
Yeah.
want to comment on
Yeah, I just think we've got a lot of things in the work outside of what Dave mentioned in his slides. We're working with Salt Lake City and Foothill. We've got I-80. We've got a lot of studies with UTA and looking at different BRT routes. So those are ongoing, and I think we'll see something, some fruit from those efforts shortly. So.
Mm-hmm. I understood that you highlighted the big projects, but I think it's good to remind people, because I do get reminded by constituents that what's happening on the east side is like a lot.
Yeah, it all happened on the east side in the past. Now it's got to happen a little bit on the west side.
You mean Utah County?
And Utah.
Sorry, that was
Mr. Chairman. So maybe just to add a little bit to Dave and Brian, the growth is on the west side.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're seeing these major capacity projects there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Jerry's going to mention this in his presentation, but I think one of the most exciting things that we're working in partnership with UTA on right now is we're going to take advantage of the signal systems that we have in place and some of the electronics and install DSRC dedicated short range radio systems in our signal cabinets that can talk to the UTA buses. And what we're going to be working on is to be able to give the buses an advantage on the signal system if they're running behind schedule. So the signal system will know the schedules of the buses and coordinating together to try to make sure we can maintain that schedule. And I think that is a really exciting, it's going to be probably one of the largest full-scale demonstrations of that technology I believe in the country. And I think it's going to serve as a model for future intelligent transportation. So I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. Now, do we have any other questions or comments for Region 2?
Thank you.
If not, thank you very much. Thank you. We're at the point in our agenda where we will open this for public comment. Let's invite the two mayors, certainly, to come up. And other elected officials who are here, we welcome comments from you as well. And then we will open it up to the general public. Mayor, welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the association that we had yesterday. It was kind of a fun day, and I know we joked and teased a little bit, and I understand that the situation yesterday was maybe a little different than it is today. This is definitely more formal, and I will address myself that way, but it is sometimes kind of fun to poke a little fun at each other just a little bit. But I'd like to welcome you to our valley. As you've seen yesterday, our valley is growing, and when you talk about the west side, we consider ourselves the west side. We just have a mountain in between us. We have some real needs, as you've seen yesterday. We did enjoy the tour. We enjoyed the opportunity to rub shoulders with you and to point out some of our major concerns. And as we addressed them yesterday, we do have three major projects. Of course, there's one that's going on, and I'm sure that the residents at Twilla, it won't be completed fast enough. And that is the main street that they have going on. And you've seen the project at the south end of their community and how it created quite a bottleneck. And it's certainly, as you guys have been teased over the course of time, that Utah has two seasons, construction and winter. But we do understand that we can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And we appreciate the projects that have been done in our valley. They've been very needed. And the three major problems that we do have, of course, is our I-80 and 36 interchange at exit 99 there. It is a tremendous pinch point, and we appreciate the fact that them are now being addressed with the extension of 201, or at least being addressed and looked at to see if there isn't something that we can do. You've been fortunate that you've never been in that parking lot, and if you are in that parking lot, you're there for a while, because it's one of those situations where there is no place to go, and getting across the median to get turned around to try to go the other way sometimes is quite impossible, especially if you're in one of those big trucks. Looks like they got some of them circle flies in here. The Mid-Valley Highway, as we discussed yesterday, and you was getting a view of the valley, the opportunities for development with the business sector or the manufacturing industrial sector, it's there. We have the ground, we have the resources for this. Our only problem is that we're a little bit off of the freeway, just that little bit that these commercial businesses just don't want to look at, because you're just outside of that circle that they're willing to entertain. The main street in Grantsville, as you see, and I do hope they fix the pothole that's there. I'll take the upgrade, Brian. Just don't make it real long. The main street in Grantsville, I hope that there's a way that we can at least sit down and maybe address some of the concerns that we have there. We have some real concerns, and we've had fatalities on that road with school children getting to school, and it's a very tough situation when you're trying to explain to a parent that, well, there hasn't been enough accidents on the road for them to do something. A activated pedestrian crossing on Hell Street is a reality. And when I thanked Marge on the bus yesterday, I'm very serious, because the activated pedestrian crossing that was there by the grocery store was the result of her efforts in continuing to go. We had to sit in the Subway sandwich shop and have a sandwich and let her have the opportunity to see 3 children almost get plowed over in 3 different incidents. We've had multiple there on the Hell Street, and we've had some minor vehicle accidents because people don't see the children crossing and they slam on their brakes, and we've had people piled up. This is a concern because it is the only way for those school children that live on the north side of our community, north of the main street, to be able to get to the junior high. Again, we have a drainage issue. This is real. When we have some winter thaws or the summer thunder bumpers that come through, Main Street acts like a dam, and there's no place for this water to go. We can't dig up the road to put some drainage culverts in there to move this water to the north of the community. So this is one of those things that as we was going to be doing the work on SR 138 or Grantsville's Main Street, that was going to be addressed, and we've had some discussions over that. As you've seen when you was at the Maverick, it's a 2-lane road, and then it ventures into a 4-lane or a 5-lane road, if you will. We need to have them additional lanes put into the system. We happened to be there when, of course, there wasn't a lot of traffic that was being moved. But 60% of this valley, you've got to understand, go on that east side of the mountain there to go to work. So there is some real traffic issues as people are commuting to and from. The Main Street probably would hold together a whole lot better if it did have some curb and gutter to keep the road from being able to fall apart. We in the municipalities understand that as we don't have curb and gutter on all of our streets, and as you have these garbage vehicles and the buses go down the roads and they get on the edge of the roads, we understand they break the road away, and of course then the maintenance costs increase. So we would just like to say to you, thank you for coming in and visiting us. We'd like to work with you, and we are a growing area, and we do have lots of needs, and we would like to partner with you and try to address some of these. And we know the dollar only goes so far, but we hope that you will look favorably upon us as we do have some real concerns and safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that we did yesterday, Mr. Mayor, was after our tour, we met over at Region 2 for a couple of hours, and many of the issues that you have raised that we actually saw yesterday were discussed during that meeting. And so we are actively looking at ways to assist. There's a number of projects that are already actively being discussed by Region 2 to address many of those issues. It's probably not all going to occur at once, as you might anticipate, but those are actively being addressed and were part of our discussion yesterday afternoon after the tour.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you for allowing us to be in your beautiful city.
Oh, we welcome you. We appreciate y'all being here and taking some time from maybe the normal routine and coming out into the most beautiful valley in Utah, and so it's good for you all to see that. I just want to take just a second to express my appreciation to this board, to Region 2. Those guys are great to work with. The project director on this, our Main Street project, which I can tell you has been a challenge for us. I've been great to work with. Jessica is very willing to talk with us and let us express our concerns about what happened and what is happening on Main Street. It's interesting, I've worked with Twila City for 50 years, been mayor for 11, and I found out during this project that most of the people in my beautiful community think that Main Street is Tooele City's road and not UDOT's road. And we had to keep telling people that we don't have a whole lot of say in what's happening with this project, even though we did get our input. So for that project, I appreciate that. It means a great deal to us for this committee and UDOT to spend some money in Tooele. We have some significant needs. As you know, most of the growth is going to happen to the west. Salt Lake Valley is getting built out. Our permits are much higher now than they've been for the last 8 years in building permits. And I know Mayor Marshall's going through that same thing. Because we're blessed with the valley and the quality of life, a lot of people moved out here. In the last few years, we went from about 13,000 to 30,000, seems like overnight. And Mayor Marshall's right, a lot of those people, because of our quality of life and the low cost of housing, have moved here, but they work still in the valley, and so we have a lot of commuters. I-80 is a major concern for all of us, for safety issues and also the movement of that traffic. Mid-Valley Highway, we've got together now over the last couple of years and created an economic development board that consists of Mayor Marshall and I and one of his councilmen and one of my councilmen and the county commissioners trying to promote economic development. And it's proved, you know, it's helped us get some things like Cabela's big distribution center here, which adds more traffic to the area. But it's important that Mid-Valley Highway, please consider that. It'll help us a lot because that brings the freeway right into the middle of our valley that we're trying to develop. So that's important to us. But honestly, the main reason I wanted today is just say thank you. Thank you to UDOT. Gosh, I can imagine what it's like when you've got billions of dollars worth of projects and only millions to do it with. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate that challenge. Appreciate the opportunity to work with the staff. They're great. UTA has been great for us. You know, if President Burton could get the track train out here, we think that would be just peachy. We know that's a ways away. So again, thank you all very much. Thank you and welcome to Tooele. Appreciate all
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. Please.
Feels like I've got my days back. We're just as in a suit today. I'm casual. I apologize to the commission. I too wanted to thank you.
No apology needed. We wish we could be dressed like that. Believe me.
I can understand that. I just wanted to thank Carlos and the commission and Brian for the great job they're doing. They appreciated coming out yesterday and looking at our problems. And I was sitting behind Commissioner Holbrook, and she said, "Gee, look at all the growth." And I just smiled to myself that it's growing very rapidly. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to come out. It's very important to us. And serving on the the Government Appropriations Committee and Infrastructure Committee. I recognize how difficult it is to allocate your funds and to prioritize your projects. But you're doing a marvelous job, and I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Please.
Good morning, commissioners, and we appreciate your coming out here.
Please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Jewel Allen. I'm a Grantsville City Councilwoman, and I appreciate the comments that our mayors and representatives said. So I wanted to say thank you especially for highlighting some of the things that we've been doing out here in Tooele County. Mormon Trail Road is an access road for commuters and recreationists near our city. And I've gone there and down there several times, so I appreciate that it's on the list too. So I'm a runner, and I've had the opportunity to run in other cities where trails are an integral part of the main roads. And running is a great way to gain a good perspective on the city. And I really love being able to run in Grantsville. And that's really where the rubber shoe meets the road. I hope as you toured yesterday, you appreciate the beauty that's drawn residents like myself to this valley. And as I've run in different parts of the city, Main Street especially, I've recognized what most of our constituents are saying, about really trying to integrate safety of pedestrians and also being able to accommodate traffic on the roads. So as you look at the Main Street project, that's what I would ask is I hope we can have a holistic approach, not just prepare it for vehicles, but also maybe think up some creative ways of integrating some trails and sidewalks that would really accommodate both uses. And also, I just want to thank you for coming out here and for considering the needs of our city and our county.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And from what Chair Millington said, we're really looking at Tooele. It's kind of hard sometimes to move things around, but we are trying to do it holistically with transit, trails, biking, and everything else. But I want to thank Grantsville for having the statue of Hilda Erickson in front of the city offices. Pioneer woman, and you don't see that much as you should in Utah. So it's very nice to see that.
Thank you. Please.
I'm Wade Bittner, Commissioner in Tooele County. I was really delighted to be able to associate with you yesterday and to tell you a little bit about this beautiful place we live. I understand, after having been a teacher and many of the things I've done, that the way you learn is through repetition. And so you will hear the same story from me that you may have heard from the previous speakers here. And that is, number one, we really appreciate your willingness to come out here. We think that that's great. And recognize that going from Grantsville or Tooele to Salt Lake City is about 300 miles. Well, when you're going from Salt Lake to here, it's about 300 miles. When you're going from here the other way, it's only about 30. And so we have some great things to offer here. I don't think I can reiterate often enough about the Mid-Valley Highway. That's one thing that you've heard a lot about. We here are recognizing the great needs that we have for roads and not having an economic development in the last 5, 6, 8 years that really favored that. So we're doing everything we can to maximize the amount of money that you're providing for us. We are planning for the next 5, 10. I'm sorry, I haven't got up to 2040 yet, but we're working on that part. I doubt that I will be a commissioner in 2040. And we'd like to get some things done a little bit early if we could. We would appreciate that. But we're doing our efforts to make these things happen. As was mentioned, we have an economic development committee. We have instigated all of the things we need to do except make the offer to the landowners to buy the right-of-way for Mid-Valley Highway. We anticipate that will happen early in this next week. And then we're rerouting traffic. We have a lawsuit pending on the South Mountain Road, which is just a gravel haul road. But by finishing that lawsuit off and making a gravel haul road, we have given an opportunity for heavy truck traffic, which is now going through Grantsville and on into Rush Valley. We're giving them another route to go to get a good road that can handle that heavy traffic. And so we're dealing in every way we can with that. We've used coal mix this last year very effectively. We noticed that you're doing it again, going over to over Johnson's Pass, over to Dugway, and we found that we can get more lane miles, almost double the lane miles out of that mix, Rotomill, than we can with regular hot mix. And so we received 2 awards for that, one national award from the Asphalt Association, another one from the State Association, as a result of that effort. So we want you to know that we're doing everything that we can on our side to make this work. And so again, we really appreciate you coming. Gee whiz, I think that whenever you see me, one of the first words that comes out of your mouth is Mid-Valley Highway. And so the repetition is working. I appreciate that very much.
It must have been working yesterday because Mid-Valley Highway was a topic of our discussion when we got back to Region 2 yesterday.
That is excellent. We have the mayors and the representatives and the commissioners singing the same song. So we hope that it's never off key for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And to just note with the chair, sometimes, you know, we hear you, but sometimes progress is incremental. So
we absolutely understand that, and that's why we're going through a transportation plan that we have to identify those areas that are most important. Of course, we may have to make a switch sometime, but at least we've got those things in mind.
right,
And so
I congratulate you on doing public-private partnerships on the corridor. Trying to.
we have one today that worked really well, and that's out of Village Boulevard. And in spite of all of the challenges that we've had, it should be open today about 2:30. And so we're excited about that. That's innovative. That put us 2 years ahead of schedule because of the private-public relationship. So thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
I expect the commissioners to have the Village Boulevard done today at 2:30 and the Mid-Valley Highway before rain gets off. I'm Commissioner Bateman. I'm out in Wendover and just drove back this morning. We're able to enjoy the road project. We're not there thinking of the millions of dollars that's being spent out there on I-80. And I just want to really tell the members here how grateful I am for the coordination that's been done here in Twilla. The meetings that they have with the Highway 36 on Main Street, it's been very positive. I interact with a lot of seniors, and they, even though it's been a challenge on Main Street, that they see the progress, and they're really impressed how much dirt had to be taken away. Didn't realize the buildup over the years has been happening here, but I just want to tell you I'm thankful for all that you've done here in Twilla County. I gave Wade 2 assignments since he's over the roads, and one is get that Mid-Valley Highway done, and hopefully we can get some allocations before he and I get off the commission. And the second thing is to look at lowering the speed limit down there on that, by that Village Boulevard. So I hope we talked about that. If not, we'll find the right sources of people to talk to so we can make that a safe area on the highway there. But hey, thanks for coming out, and I'm glad I could run back from Wendover this morning so I could be with you.
Thank you very much for doing that.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner, where was that you wanted the speed limit lower?
So when you come down 130 from Grantsville to the Stansbury Park area, Village Boulevard, I'm even willing to pay for a flashing sign that says 45 miles an hour just to slow the traffic. We have a community that goes across the road there. We have a grocery store, a lot of traffic, but even if you put the speed limit 45, people are going to be driving 55. You've got a lot of people who are crossing the area, and I just think for a safety concern, we need to look at lowering that to 45 miles an hour in that area. And like we have down there on closer to the McDonald's in the Lake Point area, they have a sign that blinks and reads the speed of people. I would really like to go ahead and do that. And I've talked to the other 2 commissioners that, you know, even if we had to take the money out of our own funds, I'd be willing to go ahead and pay for that just to help make that more of a safer area. And so, okay, appreciate that.
Do we have any others that wish to address the commission?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Gruber with the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
The Tooele Valley is part of our metropolitan planning organization's planning area and association of governments areas. And I just wanted to express appreciation to the members of the council and the staff from UDOT, and also all of the elected officials and staff from Tooele County, as well as the cities here. We've had the pleasure of assisting them in looking at their long-range transportation plans, and it's a really great collaborative relationship. I'm just wondering why the elected officials have never mentioned this Mid-Valley Highway thing to me before.
You need a hearing aid?
Of course, repetition.
Yeah.
We've heard it several times before, and we know it's very important. So thank you very much to everybody for the collaboration.
Andrew, thank you. Andrew, thank you for the work that you do. Is there anyone else? If not, then we'll move on to our UTA presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I have just a comment. We enjoyed the tour yesterday, mayors and the city councilwoman and all of the properties that we saw. It's just beautiful. But coming from St. George, I've seen the growing pains and I feel that pain. But we promise as a UDOT Commission and UDOT to work in cooperation with you to make your community even more beautiful. And as a good faith gesture, Mayor, we're going to fix that pothole in Main Street.
Thank you. I think it's scheduled for next week.
Just don't upgrade that road, okay?
Well, we'll let you and Brian work it out.
Thank you. Bishop?
Please. Thank you for being here.
Indeed, it's our pleasure to be here. I'm grateful to be in the company of our interim CEO, Mr. Jerry Benson, who has done a fantastic job as he has presided over what has been a difficult period for UTA and done it in a magnificent way. A couple of items, if I may. About a 9-iron shot directly west is where the beginnings of my DNA started. My mother was raised just west of Main Street, and so I spent a lot of time in Tooele Valley as a young boy, and it's a great place. We're grateful also to have Danny McConkey as a part of our Board of Trustees. He sometimes, as I suspect you know, is a little bit of a pain, but we deal with that with a big smile and we love him to death. Pardon me?
It's only intermittent with you. You get what you get. He's on his best behavior then.
But in all candor, magnificent contributions to our board. We're grateful for your appointing him to our board. Just one piece of information. I suspect my dentist and I are concerned about the transition that one faces when they're going east on I-80. Beautiful cement, beautiful road base, you get to 13th East, and that's the worst piece of road between 13th East. Jars my feelings out, Carlos. When are you going to get that taken care of? Why are we talking about Mid-Valley Highway? That is the very epitome of Mid-Valley Highways in the system. And wow, what a bad piece of concrete. Never mind.
Randy said there is no bad concrete.
I'd like to take you for a ride. Thank you for the opportunity of spending a few moments with you. We look forward to this occasion periodically, usually on an annual basis. But we're here to give you just a brief report of what's transpiring in the UTA domain. We're delighted to have the opportunity of sharing what has gone on, what we expect to accomplish, and what might be going forward. And do I press the button, this small button? The one above it. I don't expect you to read this. This is a little brochure that is available on our website, uta.trust. And this explains a little bit about phase one, what has occurred in the last several years to respond to public comment, to respond to primarily legislative audit of almost 3 years ago that got started. And in terms of responding to that audit, we have completed now each item that was on that audit. It has been an arduous task. It's taken a lot of introspective work. It has taken a lot of effort on the part of our staff, on the part of our trustees. The middle column is what we call the overhaul of the policies and procedures and personnel. 2015 was one of those years where we spent a great deal of time looking at policies, looking at practices, and attracting new and very, very capable staff employees that have turned out to be magnificent additions to the UTA. The right-hand column expresses what is ongoing in terms of our number one goal this year is to continue to cultivate transparency and public trust. It's no secret that one of the biggest issues facing UTA is public trust. And everything that happens, essentially in terms of the growth of that agency, involves public trust. Because of its dependence on the sales tax, that is a public trust item. And Proposition 1 in Salt Lake and Weaver counties is evidence that still more needs to be accomplished in that arena. I still don't have the right one. There you go. Let's talk a little bit about what has occurred in terms of some of the reforms and the path forward in phase 1 that have been accomplished. The issue of the composition of our departments and the shifts that were necessary there to accommodate some of the audit points. We have taken a hard look at transit-oriented development and how it operates within the UTA organization. We have had the opportunity of selecting and hiring a new general counsel, a young man who has Utah ties, who spent 10 years with the federal highway folks, the transit folks in Washington, and has proven to be a magnificent addition to the UTA staff. His name is Jamie Blakesley. We have also spent a great deal of time on how we relate to other governmental agencies, particularly the legislature. We have conducted a compensation and benefits analysis and have made a number of adjustments during the course of the last 2 years. Those adjustments including some of the more widely publicized ones relative to bonuses, relative to compensation of senior executives. Those have been difficult steps, but have been all now accomplished in that fashion. We have dealt with an issue that has received a lot of public attention, and that is travel, particularly international travel. And you'll note that we have brought that under control, and that very little of that has transpired. One of the biggest issues facing UTA is our long-term financial plan. Much of what has transpired in terms of building 5 routes of rail transit was financed by bonds. Those bonds need to be paid, the interest paid, and some retired, and that presents some very, very difficult issues for us to grapple with. But we have revised the long-term plan. We have refinanced virtually all of our outstanding bond issues and taking advantage of the favorable rates that are out there right now. And so we see a path there, but let me just be very candid with you. Our dependence on sales tax, which we have any kind of a downturn in the economy, that pinches our revenue source, and it makes those issues a lot more difficult to deal with. That's largely what has transpired during the last several years as we've grappled with those very, very difficult issues at the UTA. Going forward, the path forward, we have developed new ethics and policies and goal setting. We'll talk about some of those goal performances in a moment. We have, as I indicated, we have made some important personnel changes in addition, and there are still several to make. We're in the process of the selection of a new CEO. Interviews are taking place as we speak here relative to identifying someone who can take UTA to its next level and onward. We have secured and built an entirely new audit staff, internal audit staff. One of the items of the legislative audit. We have reached out and continue to reach out in a significant way to our stakeholders. When you deal with as many communities and as many counties as we do, and you know the implications of all of that, you deal with the same way as we do. We obviously need to make certain that that segment of the population is well informed about what is transpiring at UTA. And then in spite of what has occurred in the economy, where we've had flat sales tax over the last several years, because of some of the changes we have made, service has actually increased. Roughly about 5 to 7% more service in the last 2 years than we had before, with a very constant revenue source. What's happening going forward? Well, you know, the name of the game for us, number one problem, number one challenge, if you will, is to continue to cultivate public and board transparency. We have 16 members of our board, and so to keep all of us on the same path is, and all of us informed is a difficult issue, to say nothing about the public. And so those issues are continue with us, and we'll continue to find ways to be far more transparent in the public sector. We have recently announced, and you probably heard in the press the last several days, some changes in our committee structure that in essence will help us in that regard, in that we will be making all decisions at the trustee level rather than at the working committee level, and an attempt to be transparent. And like you have done, we will be streaming our meetings to allow the public access if they wish to be a part of that. We will spend more time in public comment and in understanding the public's needs. We'll continue with the, as I say, the selection of a new CEO, and obviously be very, very proactive in the public arena. We have adopted a brand that we will continue to work on, and that brand is "You Can Depend on UTA." That's an issue, that brand that we hope will be catch on and will be something that we can advertise, and something that can come to fruition, that the public indeed can depend on UTA. We're very much committed as a partner in the process of developing the Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. We're very much committed to that plan. We are grateful for the opportunity of participating with all the other agencies in the development of the plan, and particularly with your staff in a number of areas around our service area that require us to be very close working partners. Just as an illustration, I bring to your attention the Pro or BRT plan. That has required a lot of planning. It has a lot of communication and a lot of partnership part of UTA and UDOT. As I mentioned, we're comprised of 16 trustees, and we're delighted that in all candor to have your appointment to our board being Danny McCoffey, and we thank you and him for what you do to help us in some of our most difficult issues. We established a number of board goals for review in the 2015. First of all, we have a goal relative to ridership. There we go. A goal in ridership was to increase 3.3% over in 2015 over what was done in 2014. It turned out that was a very ambitious goal because ridership was essentially unchanged from 2014. UTA boarded about 46.6 million people during the course of the year, and that was roughly flat, as opposed to the national ridership decreased about 1.3%. Ridership has a correlation with the price of gasoline, and as well as service and other things that we recognize. And we're rather delighted that we were able to maintain an even balance in our boardings last year, in spite of those other issues that tended to press the ridership issues. We also have another board goal that's called investment provider. We wanted this very closely because this gives us a calculation about what kind of a subsidy, if you will, that riders enjoy. And our goal this year was $4.01. It turned out that we have a very favorable rate this year of $3.79, which we felt was a great accomplishment there. And this calculation rewards good performance and efficient performance on the part of our operating staff, and they this year did a magnificent job in that regard. We have a development issue relative to revenue development, and there's several goals there. One being that our non-small starts, we have a goal of raising $13.5 million. We surpassed that goal. On our small starts, we had a goal for $75 million in revenue development. Of that, only $4 million was achieved during 2015. But in the federal budget, we have a line item allocated to us primarily for the Provo BRT of $71 million when we are able to reach all the steps to acquire that. So we feel good about those items. Obviously, our state of good repair issues are always with us, as they are with you. And we had this year a goal to develop a dashboard for state of good repairs and demonstrate adherence. And we now have that in place, monitoring what in 2016, monitoring where we are relative to maintaining the facilities and the infrastructure that was largely accomplished on the rail system during the last 6 or 7 years. Lastly, we have the stakeholder and customer satisfaction results. We monitor that very closely. You can see by that little chart that in our track system, in our bus system, we have had satisfaction increases on the part of those who use us, those of our stakeholders. Front runner, we experienced some issues that we are dealing with. None of the scores are levels that we anticipate that they will be, and they need to be, but we are grateful for the trend that has been established there. In terms of our goals relative to reliability, the bus and the rail and paratransit. You can see that those numbers are all in the 90s or very, very close to a 90% satisfaction in those parts of our operation. We had a goal this year to look at the issue of distance-based fares. Turns out that after looking at it, after getting in-depth public comment, stakeholder comment, the recommendation was that we would not implement distance-based fares in the system. So in terms of our goals this year, we're reasonably, most of them were accomplished. We're grateful for the staff who have done a magnificent job in meeting those goals. We're grateful for our board of trustees who have put a lot of time in terms of making the system better. We look forward to going forward with the issues that face us. Just to recount them, it's public trust, it's public trust, it's public trust, and it's public trust. And so, to give you a little more in-depth relative to what's happening at UTA, first of all, I will respond to questions on anything I have said or done, and then we'll have Mr. Benson visit with you on some of the other more technical issues. Any questions? Yes,
Definition of small start for us farm boys.
Yeah, that was what I was.
You know, I'm not sure I know the definition. Jerry, what's the definition of a small start?
It's a Federal Transit Administration grant program for new capital projects that are smaller, that are
I think he's looking for
smaller,
the
yeah.
dimensions. What does smaller mean?
Yeah.
Smaller than an amount.
Right, smaller than an amount. So this is about a $150 million project. The federal share is about $75 million. When we did the major rail construction projects, those were part of the federal New Start program. So it's just a name that the feds have. So similar process though for applying for and getting federal money.
Thank you. Got it. A little bit further. Not seeing any, we'll introduce Mr. Benson, and he'll continue the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Burton, and thank you, Commissioners, for having us here today. So I have a number of slides. I'm not going to go through everything on every slide. There's information there for you, primarily just to let you know the breadth of activities that UTA is engaged in and some of the things that we're proud to have accomplished last year. I'm going to let you advance the slides here for me too, so if you go to the next one. The Board of Trustees a couple of years ago established a strategic plan. At the center of that plan is customer focus. And we have a number of things that support that in terms of partnerships and economic development and so forth, but we're primarily a service agency. So while we build major capital infrastructure, primarily what we're about is operating services using that infrastructure. Safety is one of our top priorities, and we're really proud to have achieved an ongoing reduction in avoidable accidents on our bus system. So we're almost at the level half where we were 5 or 6 years ago. And every one of those accidents that we avoid is not only injury and expense saving, but it's also we avoid a disruption in service for our customers. We had a big effort last year, and we're going to have a bigger effort this year in improving our stops and shelters. We improved 104 bus stops last year. And with the passage of Proposition 1 in Weaver, Davis, and Tooele counties, we're going to ramp that effort up significantly. We also increased our capacity for bicycles and deployed a new function at UTA, which is the fare inspection. It allows us to get more coverage with the same dollars. Historically, only our transit police had done full fare inspection. Now we have a mid-level classification to do that work. We're proud to have the opportunity to increase our service in Weaver, Davis, and Tooele counties. And that increase in service comes about because the voters in those communities decided to make an investment in transit and their local roads. And Proposition 1 came out of a House Bill 362. It had a change in gasoline tax for roads, and then sales tax for local roads and transit. In Tooele County, we have a unique partnership with the county, and through County Senior Services, we offer a flex route and a dial ride service. So this is the only dial ride in the UTA service area. It's called the Tooele County Shuffle. And one of the enhancements we're able to do in this county is expand the hours of service for the shuttle. And that will start in June next month. So it'll take the hours from, I think it's 9 to 3 now, to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. service. So in a community like this, having a demand response service that has some flexibility is a more efficient way to meet the needs of the local travel within the community. We're also doing some work in the county related to Proposition 1 for improvements in bike lanes, improvements in bus stops and shelters, and we look forward to working with the county in the future. UTA operates most of our services directly, but we do have contracts with other providers, and we contract with United Way of Utah County and a private for-profit company in Weber County. But one of our most productive partnerships is with Tooele County, so we look forward to that continuing. We hosted a rail conference in Salt Lake in 2015, and we launched a community transit advisory committee during the year. So this is a cross-section of the public. These are regular riders and non-riders, community advocates, and we use that committee to give us feedback about proposed initiatives and potential changes in the service. We came in under budget, and we're happy about that. And it wasn't just fuel. Even if we set fuel aside, we came in under budget last year, and that's important for us. As Chairman Burton mentioned, we have a significant debt burden, and so it's important for us to keep paying down that burden so that eventually we can take those resources and put them into service. And the refinance that we did last year was a big step forward in our ability to pay off that debt more quickly. And as part of that, we had an upgrade in our credit rating. As Chairman Burton mentioned, we were able to add some service, and this is really the first time since we've been opening these rail lines that we've been able to add local service, add more evening, weekend service, and we saw big improvements in ridership on those that we were able to add service. We built and opened a new compressed natural gas fueling facility in downtown Salt Lake. We have about 47 CNG buses, and we've got another 30 or so coming, provided we're also able to upgrade the maintenance facility associated with that. We do a number of ticket and fare programs and have a great partnership with the University of Utah, so that if you have an event ticket, that's also your transit ticket. And now we become kind of the extended event. So the experience on the train is every bit as intense as the experience in the stands.
You have to change the name from tailgating.
Right. It's going to be track skating or something. Now, we don't allow barbecues or charcoal lighter fluid, but you can have a good time. You can have a very good time on the train. We're really excited to be partnering with UDOT, cities of Provo and Orem and Utah County on the Provo Orem trip, which is really a combined bus rapid transit and roadway improvement project that connects the Orem Frontrunner Station, Utah Valley University, University Mall, BYU, Provo Town Center, Provo Frontrunner Station. And it's going to make a big difference in moving people through that area, students, workers, shoppers, everyone. And I can't say enough about the partnership with UDOT on this project. These projects, and this one in particular, impacts a lot of people. It impacts neighborhoods. There are homes that abut the alignment. There are schools, and we have created a joint oversight committee, and really appreciate the partnership and the contributions of UDOT. Many times it seems like when the partners, this joint oversight is the two cities, the Mountain Lands Association of Governments, the county, UTA, and UDOT. And it seems that we'll have a dispute among the cities and UTA, UDOT can step in and resolve that. Or if there's a dispute between the county and one of the cities, then one of us can step in, and everybody's committed to a successful project. And it's nice to have that kind of collaborative approach to helping make critical decisions so we get the project right for everyone.
This is not without controversy, though.
It's not without controversy at every level. And we think that this is probably the best way for us to manage the controversy that arises out of these disparate interests that folks have. I don't know if you wanted to say any more about that, but it's a challenging project. And those of us who were around when we were picking the alignment for the first tracks line for downtown Salt Lake, whether it was State Street or Main Street, those who were here when we did the alignment up 4th South for the University line, the same kind of challenges that we have in Program Orem were the challenges we had then. And we've learned a lot from those, and I think we'll do an even better job here.
Yeah, we work closely with you and the Region 3 Director, Terry Newell. It was a topic of discussion, besides Mid-Valley Highway, yesterday.
So we are well along with that project. We received $4 million grant from the Federal Transit Administration. We've completed 90% design on the facility, 60% on the rest of it. We have a contractor on board. We expect to get a letter from the Federal Transit Administration authorizing us to pre-spend money that will then be credited from the grant that we expect to get from them before the end of the year. Oh, I forgot the bus drives in. That bus, by the way, is a 60-foot articulated 5-door transit vehicle. So it allows boarding on both sides. It will likely be powered by a hybrid electric diesel power plant, which will help it get up that incline coming out of UVU and provide a quick trip for folks across the valley. Sustainability is one of the strategic initiatives for UTA, and we're proud to have been awarded a business award in the bronze level sustainability by APTA. I won't go into that much except to say that we're ISO 14001 certified, and sustainability and environmental awareness is a big part of how we try to do our business in our area. Thank you. We partner with the University of Utah on an air quality monitoring system, and I was mentioning to Chairman Burton on the way over here, because we have air quality monitoring on our tracks red line, we can see what parts of the Salt Lake Valley have the cleanest air on most days, and it's the parts that are closest to Tooele. If we could just get over the mountain, I think it's even cleaner over here. That's been a neat program, and we're happy to have been able to work with the University of Utah because air quality is one of the biggest challenges that the urbanized areas of Utah face, especially along the Wasatch Front and Salt Lake Valley. I'll keep moving over to the rest of these. In 2015, we challenged for the Shingo Prize, and lean operations is a big part of how we do business. The Shingo Prize is the top international recognition for organizations that have adopted a formal enterprise excellence program. And this is based on principles of lean, but they've taken it to a higher level. We're really fortunate in Utah to have the Shingo Institute here at Utah State University, and organizations from around the world, from Asia, from Scotland, from Mexico, learn about enterprise excellence through the Shingo Institute, and then use that Shingo Prize as a way to benchmark themselves against world-class organizations around the world. We felt that we were ready to start looking at that kind of comparison, and we had an assessment team from the Institute go through our organization. And I can tell you, they came away saying, the ones who live in Utah, we have people from Mexico and from the East Coast, central United States. The people who were here locally said they're really reassured to know that people inside UTA are working as hard as they are to improve their processes, save money, make them more efficient and safer. So we'll continue that. We challenge for the Shingo Prize as a learning opportunity, and we have learned from it. We're going to use that to improve going forward. We advanced a number of projects during the year, and I won't go into these too much except to say, as Commissioner Holbrook brought up, we have a number of projects and initiatives where we are connected with UDOT to perform them. So the Redwood Road study that's currently underway hopefully will lead to use of some of the new technology, and whether it's a full-blown BRT or BRT phase 1 kind of improvement in that service, we're looking forward to that. Same with the Murray-Taylorsville and West Valley BRT study. We're looking to make some improvements in that alignment. Technology is an area I could spend another hour on, but we really appreciate the opportunity to partner with UDOT because the research and planning and technology resources that UDOT has are often in these kinds of areas much more than we have. So it makes a lot of sense for us to partner with UDOT, share all of our data, and then find ways we can move people together more effectively. We partnered with Wasatch Front Regional Council on 3 station area plans, and I would just say the Transportation Land Use Connection Program is a great resource to communities, and I encourage you to learn a little bit about that. And if you have communities that have opportunities for new development around transit stations, this is a great way to plan that, to be proactive, so that we make sure when we do pull the trigger on development, that it's exactly what the community needs and it's going to deliver what the residents want to improve their quality of life. Mobility management is a program where UTA in the urbanized area is able to receive federal funding under the FTA 5310 program to coordinate human service transportation providers. And some of our partnership with Tooele County is a result of this mobility management program. We've done a number of things in that area, and we're excited about where this can go. We have issued grants for vehicles. We've created shared vehicle and volunteer driver programs. We're getting ready to launch a voucher program so that if someone wants to provide a trip to one of their neighbors, they can get a voucher to get reimbursed for the cost of that. Those kinds of things really extend the reach of a transit system into areas where you can't put a fixed route bus, but people have mobility needs. Tooele County has really led out on a lot of this, and we were able to partner with the county and the Veterans Administration to initiate some services here that we've been able now to leverage to do things like the dial right. Mountain Accord was a big achievement in 2015, and there are a number of activities now going forward to implement the principles of the Accord, and we were happy to receive the Envision Utah Common Good Award. So that's a brief picture of some of the kinds of things that UTA is engaged in, and we will be happy to entertain any other questions or
Thank you for that
comments.
report. We appreciate being updated on all of the things that are happening. I know that public trust is a big issue, and the transparency issue seems to have risen the last few days. Specifically about the committee meetings that are not going to be open to the public. Would you like to comment on that? Because I'm hearing some news about that.
Well, I would say it was given an unfair twist in the media.
Here's your chance
That's
to
right.
twist it.
In the past, UTA had a number of committees, and a number of issues were discussed in those committees. And they were open committee meetings. They happened at many different times during the day and during the month. And so while they were open meetings, there was no opportunity for public comment. There was no opportunity for interchange with the public about the issues that were being discussed. The other challenge for those committees is it was a small subgroup of the board, and so the other members of the board were also not part of those conversations. So the effort of UTA to increase transparency and openness is to really focus on the board meeting and to make sure that all of the decision-making, policy setting, resource allocation happens at the board meeting. And to give the public advance notice of what those issues are. So starting several days before the board meeting, we will publish on our website what the issues are for the board. We will invite public comment through the website, so you don't even have to work your schedule to come if you have something important to add about a decision or an action item of the board. And we will still invite the public to come and comment on those meetings.
What's the work of the committees then if you can't have input and discussion at the committee level?
So there's still a need to explore and to gain information about issues
Isn't
that
that
are...
one the public should be able to hear and discuss and have an input at the committee level?
Well, the public has the opportunity to have input all the time. And we have enhanced that with a Citizens Advisory Committee. We have an open email directly to the board, so you can go to the UTA website and give input all the time. And so if the board members need to ask questions or get information or explore maybe a new technology or a new direction for the agency, they may want to have an opportunity to explore those with each other and with staff. Those don't become any formal issue or topic for a decision or action by the board until the executive committee of the board decides this is something that's going to be brought to the whole group. So they're very much more now informal information gathering, exploration sessions, and as I know this commission does from time to time, you individually or in small groups want to find out about something, and so you have some mechanism for doing that before you bring an action item or a formal item forward. So by having a citizen advisory committee, by having open access to the public all the time through our website, by publishing the information in advance to the public about what we're actually going to be taking up and giving them more opportunity, we're increasing the openness and transparency. And
I applaud you for that because it wasn't that way when I was on the UTA board, trust me on that. Do you have any other comments, questions? Hey, Danny, both of you have served on the
I'll let Danny.
on the board.
I'd just like to thank Chairman and Jerry for showing up here today. This is very important to us. We've had a lot of struggle in our discussions to be as transparent as possible at UTA, just like we do here. Serving the public is not an easy thing to do. And sometimes the public views us with a skewed eye, depending on what they think their source of information is about us and about UTA. But I can tell you in all honesty, I believe that UTA has made every effort to be as forthright as possible. They have a good staff of employees. They give their all, just like our DOT people do. And I have here the fast facts about UTA. Pass these around, and this is the latest and greatest information. It's just it pulls out like this, and in 5 minutes you can get the fast facts and the truth about us. It hasn't been sanitized, it's the truth. I appreciate Jerry and David for coming today, and I can tell you UTA is doing a very great job for the people of Utah, and they have the best interest of the people's safety at heart with all the things that are coming down the pipe that way, just like we do here. Thank you.
You know, I think it's good that we all work together so closely. Though we do have smaller committee meetings too, we're all on other committees. So that's why I was a little confused about your committee explanation, because all our committees are open. And I understood what you said about informal work, and I was a little confused as how that would mean that the rest of the public wasn't invited to the meetings. So if it's informal, you know, it seems to me that they should. That's your choice, and I was a little confused about that. But I want to make perfectly clear that when we have our other meetings and our staff updates, they're open.
So the UTA committees never provided public input. That wasn't part of them. So while they were open, it wasn't an opportunity to engage with the public.
I would even challenge the fact that they were open before. We were specifically told by UTA officials when I was on the board that no more than half of the board would be present at any of the committee meetings, because then they would have to be open to the public.
I don't think
So they were
open when you were on
completely
the-
restricted.
Right, I don't think the committee meetings were open
I know they were not.
when you were on the board.
They were not.
Yeah,
And I guess I have a little bit of a heartburn here saying, and they're still not?
they were for a period of time. The committee structure as it has been has basically been disbanded because action that had been delegated to the committees is no longer delegated to the committees. That action now happens at the full board. The committees did not provide for public input. While they were open, there was no opportunity to engage with the public during the committees. We've now pulled all that to the board, and we're making the investment to make sure people know in advance of the meeting what the issues are, that they have an opportunity to engage with us about those issues, not just listen to what we're saying. And then we're going to go the next step, which is to stream the meetings and make what we
Including
do.
the committee meetings or just?
No, the board meeting. So the committees, as they were structured in the past, are disbanded, or that committee meeting is gone. There will still be working sessions and exploratory task forces and so forth, but the work of the board will happen in the official board meeting, and it'll be open to the public, and we will engage with the public in advance and during the meeting.
We did talk this topic to death, but I hate to see it take away from all the good things that you're doing and all the progressive things that you're doing, and how well, I mean, this is unusual for a state to have transit and transportation to work so well together, actually. So I commend you on that and all the progressive things that you do.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Yeah.
Question for whoever can answer it. In one of the slides, talking about ridership, national ridership increased by 1.3%. Is that a trend? Was that an anomaly? What's the story?
That's a 2015 number, and it's primarily an impact of the reduction in gasoline prices.
People took their cars.
That's right.
There's no choice.
And maybe to some extent the economy, where not as many people were working, and seeing transportation.
Sometimes transit benefits from that, so as more people have jobs, commuters are a core market, so I think there probably was a latent demand for buying automobiles, and so it seems to have shifted that way.
What's the 5-year trend? It's generally up.
Yes, our 5-year trend is up, and we have seen ridership increases, through the periods of time when we were finishing the 2015 program. We were seeing ridership increases of 4 or 5% a year.
What about nationally?
Nationally, transit ridership has been in the last 5 years in the 2% to the 3% increase range.
So that perhaps reflects on our economy, which is actually doing pretty well here in this state.
Yeah, much better than the national average.
Absolutely.
I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said something along the lines that you can please all the people some of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. So there'll always be controversy. But I think those of us who try to serve the public need to strive, and it appears to me from what I've heard this morning that you folks there at UTA are really striving to try to accomplish that and to be the kind of organization we all want to have. And I think the state can be proud of the agencies, both UDOT and UTA, that serve our taxpayers, BB1, quite well. And I often tell people that we're fortunate in this state to have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
In spite of my pointed comments, nevertheless, I applaud you for the progress that is being made. There's no question about the fact that it's much different than when I served on the UTA board several years ago. So both of you, thank you very much, and thank you for being here in this very excellent report.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you know, just one last thought. Controversy is not a bad thing, folks. In Utah, it just means you have a difference of opinion with someone. My wife and I have controversy nearly daily. You know, we love each other dearly. We've been together 51 years, and there's no chance of a separation. She won't let me.
Good for her. All right, let's move to the UDOT scoreboard. Randy, I guess you're first up. Again, thank you. I understand that you've got to be leaving because you've got other commitments. We thank you for making the effort to be out here this far to make this very excellent report to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We look forward to further communication with you. Thank you. Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Glad to be here to talk a little bit about our construction program. You can see we've had a busy month since the last commission meeting. We've advertised 18 projects for approximately $48 million. The interesting thing about this spreadsheet, you can see most of the projects are fairly small. Those are all projects that are either safety or rehabilitation or preventative maintenance type projects. So they're fairly small projects, but they're spread about the state, and those will all be constructed. At least the majority of those projects should all be constructed this construction.
Is that because the larger projects, we try to get them going earlier in the year, and that's the reason we saw the last 2 or 3 months? Fewer projects, but larger numbers.
Correct, correct. Yeah, we have to have a lot of lead time for our contractors on those larger projects, but these are quick turnaround projects. Mr. Chair.
I think part of that too is, you see every month we come back and we take money out of projects and we reallocate.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good result of that reallocation. We're taking that money that we saved somewhere else and we'll put it back to work this construction.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll show on the next graph or on the next page how we've got some of that this month again. So we don't seem to be, we kind of chase our tails on that, but that's not a bad thing because our prices are coming pretty well. Alrighty, you kind of see from that top left graph that we pretty much are a mirror of last year's efforts. We have 138 active projects to date, which is pretty apparent as you drive down our roads. I'm sure you saw that on the tour yesterday. Tool is experiencing that on their main street at the south end. Anyway, so we've got a fairly active program going on right now throughout the state. We've got $433 million left in our construction program to pay out on projects, and that's a good thing. That program's continuing to grow, as you can see on the graph that's on the top right with that red that's there in the green. How that shows the growth. Both those bars have increased. Our contractor payments by month for last month were approximately $19 million. You can see that starting to grow again. We see that happen as we get our good weather show up, where in the winter months those stay pretty low. But now that's, we're almost, we like to see that get a little higher, and it will get considerably higher over the next few months. Would like to draw the attention of, and if everybody to remember this, we're about 92% of our projects are on time right now. That probably won't. We're just in the beginning of projects, so it's like when you start a class at school, everybody's getting an A on the first day, and then day 2 is a kind of a different story. And I know in my case, day N was usually never an A. So
I can't believe that. But usually by August, September, October, we see that the red number down there somewhere in the teens, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And that's because we measure that by the dollars that we pay out to our contractor, and payment always lags, just because of their ability to submit their payments to us and our ability to process. Although we process every contractor payment within 2 weeks of the time that they submit an estimate to us.
All right.
The last graph talks about our engineer's estimate versus contract award. Our prices are still coming in, and to get to Shane's comments, that allows us to reprogram money back to the commission, because we have a budget recovery process where once every project is bid, we look at what's there and we take away money that's not needed on that project when really good bids. Now, that being said, we still have to leave some contingency because of the nature of the beast. Constructions, there's always things that come up, change orders that need to be written, bonuses and things that will need to be paid to a contractor. But we take away a good portion of that money so it doesn't sit there idle.
Any questions for Randy?
Yes, I do. Explain the bonus to contractors. What do you mean by that? One of my constituents asked me that. I couldn't explain what bonus means
Sure.
to the contractor.
They're incentives. So as contractors meet certain quality levels that we put out in our specifications, we'll pay for a bonus now or an incentive. There's also on the opposite side of that, when they don't meet, there's a disincentive. And we would really like to be able to incentivize every one of our contractors. Matter of fact, it's our best interest to never have a disincentive for a contractor or to take money away. They may have a pay item where we would pay $100 for a certain item. Well, if they don't meet that goal, maybe we only pay them $80 for that item. And on the flip side of that, if they've exceeded our expectations, we would maybe go up to 110 or 120. And those numbers are just for example. But on a lot of our items, we have that, so we incentivize our contractors.
Use smoothness as an example.
That's a great one. Smoothness, and one of the things that we measure, it's really important as a UDOT and for the public, probably because for the public is right. And so if a contractor can meet our level of smoothness, we just pay the price that was bid. If they exceed our level of smoothness, which is what we'd really like to see on every one of our projects, we incentivize them with a bonus. And we measure our smoothness on every pavement that we lay down.
Can they also get a bonus for early completion?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And a penalty for late.
We have a lot more technical way of checking on smooth anymore. It's not just, well, that looks pretty good.
Not rubbing them in your fingers.
Yeah, the tools that are out there today are a lot different than what we used to have. Even in the last 10 years, they've improved significantly.
But ultimately, it's how it feels when you drive over.
Yeah.
So there's advantages to the public on that smoothness, like we see better safety numbers with smoothness, and also the pavement will last longer because you think of it, the dynamic load is less. And so we get a lot of benefits out of smoothness.
Yeah, if you get a truck axle bouncing off a joint or something, that pounds that thing pretty hard.
80,000-pound hammer going thump, 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 thump.
That's right.
Any other questions for Randy? Thank you. Jason?
Morning, Commission. So we're going to change things up a little bit. I know everyone enjoys seeing Randy's presentation. It's been the same for 18 years.
His friendship dues went way up.
Not getting any bonus today.
So we're going to go, you've all seen our new metric tool that looks at our crashes that happen throughout our state. And so we provided the normal information, the stats and everything to you in your folders that we've been providing for a long time. But we're going to take a look at our live webpage today and kind of go from there. So Mr. Miles over here is going to go ahead and run things. We're starting out, we're going to look at 2016 crashes and we filter down from that. Then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the fatalities that have happened in our state in the year 2016. So as you can see by the dots there, they're spread out around the state. And I was hoping that the picture worth 1,000 words sort of was going to help us out here. So you can see they're spread out. There's some clusters there along the Wasatch Front.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's the south end of the valley, south end of Salt Lake.
There's definitely, you can see the heavier travel corridors throughout our state.
Right.
They tend to correlate with our fatal accidents. can go ahead and look just at the month of April. We can go ahead and see where those fatal accidents are happening in the month of April. And then as we go and dig a little bit deeper in the past, we've looked at our vulnerable users. So on the right-hand side there, Robert's able to look at the pedestrians. So you can see where the pedestrian fatalities happen in our state in the month of April. And then if we go ahead and take a look at bicycles, you can see where the bicyclists have fatal accidents have happened. Well, it should have been cumulative dead bicyclists. I know, but we had dead, so there still should have been lost. We did this yesterday. This is always the risk we're taking. So, and then if we add motorcycles. See, this is why Randy does the same presentation. It works. Sorry, just
predictable numbers.
The real intent of doing this was to show you how quickly we're able to analyze different accidents that are happening throughout our state. So as you can see there in April 2016, the pedestrians, the motorcycles, and the bicyclists, the fatal accidents that have happened throughout the state. Hopefully this will enable us to have a discussion if we start to see some of those darker red dots or darker clusters, have kind of maybe a discussion if there's something you have a question about on those types of things.
Is this on the UDOT's website?
How's the invoice?
Available at UDOT.com.
We sent you out things and links for this last fall.
It is not restricted just to our commission and to UDOT personnel. Anyone can go in there and take a look at this information.
General public.
Why do you show the information behind like a maybe click on one of the dots on the world?
So let's take a look at since we're here in Fuller County. Okay, go ahead and first click on a dot.
Highway, that's a little small letter.
So as you can see, when Robert clicks on that, we can dig a little bit deeper on a crash that happened in Fuller County, what the speed limit was, what the roadway conditions, what the weather conditions, the time of day. What we really want to do is not get into the personal details of those involved, but be able to see the factors that happen.
That may have influenced the accident.
Got a lot of, look at that, weather condition, light condition.
And how fresh is this data, Mom?
I'm glad you don't have age on there.
Everything that's happened year from January 1. Well, this is everything from, we can access everything from January 1, 2010 to April 30, 2016. Up to date and stuff.
You put gender, not age.
Okay, we absolutely could look and see. This usually is what gives me in some issues with the commissions. I started talking about the gender of those involved in fatal accidents. So,
It's all right. I'll be the first time.
it won't be the last.
Well, but it's a fact. It's either male or female. There's really only two kinds.
Time out. Let's stop this. We need to, in deference to North Carolina, I don't.
This has nothing to do with North Carolina. You got a male driver or a female driver.
We have not differentiated between those two on our crash statistics at this point. But we have been able to see in the past that the males are a greater contributor to our fatal accidents in our state.
Especially in the motorcycle and the speeding and things like that?
We continue to be challenged by those males 18 to 40 that seem to think that they're not a group that needs to wear a seatbelt. And they tend to lose that argument when they're involved in a high-speed crash.
Well, yes.
So,
Yesterday was an absolutely horrible day for us.
so an interesting statistic would be what percentage of the total fatalities or crashes are in that age group?
Right now, we can't pull the ages out because we're focused on crashes, not the individuals. We're counting a crash that has 5 occupants and vehicles the same way as a crash that has a single occupant vehicle.
Now, do we have the ability to look at the ages? Yes. As we are working very, very hard on increasing our seatbelt use, we're able to see through our surveys what gender, what age, even what race is wearing their seatbelts.
And by geography as well.
And
That's
we're,
a big deal.
yeah, rural versus urban.
Yeah.
And we're able to target those groups that aren't wearing their seatbelts as much as others to try and get them to wear their seatbelts, because it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. And unfortunately, the way we continue to show that is by the details that are happening coming out of some of these accidents. And very rarely are we having discussion about a seatbelt being the cause of the fatal outcome of an accident. I would intend to do this in future commission meetings, but I'm also very open to going back to what we've done in the past. But feel free to give me comments on
I like this.
Yeah, what's your reaction to this kind of report?
It's interesting.
Well, you know, I think Utah was the pioneer in this regard. In 1967, Research Division of Utah got a 2-year grant from the federal government to do a study. Hired Bruce Reed to go out, and every place there was a car wreck or an accident in Utah where a life was lost, he went out and photographed and interviewed and did everything to see what UDOT could do to change that location in the name of safety so another life would be lost there. And that study went back to the Federal Highway Administration, and now I think all states have a similar program as that long ago, 50 years ago.
Is that type of review that has resulted in rumble strips, table barrier, those type of things that we put out there?
Time of day, the site, the sun, the time of the season. And there's some place the sun's right in your eyes, and some time of the year driving down the road in the morning or in the evening. And that time of the year it's not.
Yeah, we can take a look and see what time of day do the most DUI fatals happen if there's a certain location. We have those discussions with our Department of Public Safety, and it's become an area that they go and have a little bit extra enforcement in order to address those issues. So this type of data is really unbelievable what we're able to do today versus what we were doing back then.
I like the map.
Right?
Yeah, very interesting. Jason, any other questions? Please, Shane.
Is there a way to put rate under those? I mean, the chair pointed out that when you put it on big valleys, you see it in those corridors that have a lot of traffic in them. But I mean, doesn't tell the full story when, you know, you have a road that has 150,000 cars on a day versus a road that has 6. So it's I don't know if we looked at rate here, but maybe something we could incorporate.
It's definitely something we're able to pull out of the detail as we dig deeper. I don't know if, well, there's Robert pulling stuff out as far as the colors showing us a little bit different look at where the rate, the numbers are a little bit higher. So
Yeah, we moved around. We do have PWA model information on rate and severity crashes it's all available here. It wasn't the safety analysis. That was
Yeah, that's something we can click on.
okay, a future one to show the rate. And, And we can look at all the different levels of crashes, from a better to the fatal crashes. So 1 through 5. We can screen through there. So. Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Well, that brings us to the repurposing earmarks. Bill, I think you're going to lead that discussion. We had some of this yesterday in the staff update, but
yeah, we've talked a couple of times about the earmarks repurposing. It's just an update, informational item. When we first were looking at this, we were thinking we had a lot more than we thought we had. Each of the earmarks had an authorization amount, and against those authorization, there was funds that had been obligated against each of those projects, and we simply took the obligation away from the authorization and added it up and thought we had a lot more than we did. So that is not necessarily the case. Each one of these also had an obligation limit that occurred, which is the actual dollar amounts that are available to spend on those projects. And so that took it down to, we sum them all up, 4.1 million that is available for repurposing. Each of those are in different categories of funds, depending on which bill the authorization that these were given in. So either through Safety Lou or T21. There's a Section 117 funds that we had as well that had a little bit of limitation left. And then there were a list of projects that were specifically by demo ID that had obligation limits. So, but in sum, it was that 4.1 million. These earmarks still, in repurposing them, still have to follow the rules that we talked about, being within the radius of 50 miles of the original earmark. There are some dates that we're trying to meet. The projects that are with obligations prior to the end of the current fiscal year need to be out by August 29th, or listed by August 29th. We're going to shoot for that date for all of ours. And so we're ahead of the curve a little bit. We can go to the next slide. We have a list here of projects that qualify for these repurposed funds. On the right-hand side, slide a little bit, that gives the specific code that the repurposed obligation limit was still available on. And then the project listed to the left is within 50 miles of that. And we have the amount of funds that's listed also on the left, and then the amount of money that we're going to switch the money into is highlighted in red. So this will free up just over $4 million of federal funds. So informational for today, we will bring back a recommendation for the funds that are freed up through this process and make a programming recommendation. But right now, it's just this list that we'll be able to do a dollar exchange, and then we'll come back and give us more time to do the right thing with those dollars. So,
all right.
Any questions?
Questions for Bill on this one?
Remind me again, Bill, the red ink numbers?
The red number is the funding type that we're going to put that repurpose in. So on that top one, to the left first, you'll see the repurpose amount is $3.5 million up there, and we have $5.6 million of STP Flex. So we'll take $3.5 million of STP Flex off this project, put the repurpose funds on it, and we'll come back to that STP Flex. And that will be the case for all these all the way through.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right, you have the program development section too.
We'll just keep rolling here. Okay, the next item, this is 7A-1. This was mentioned a little bit earlier today about taking dollars off of projects at award. These are both at award adjustments. The first one is the US 6 substation to I-70 project. It's returning just under 1.5 million of STP Flex funds to go back into the 2016 pavement rehabilitation program. The next one is the SR30 passing lanes project. It's returning 1.5 million of state TIF funds. This will go back into the statewide TIF pot to be reprogrammed. So we'd like to seek approval to make the adjustments to these two projects at meantime.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve these two returns, I guess, of funds to be reprogrammed. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
The next item is 7A-2. Region 1 is requesting approval to add a new transportation alternatives project to the STIP. This is a Kaysville TAP project. It's at the D and R GW Rail crossing, which is 200 North Street. This was recently approved by the WFRC Technical Advisory Committee, and it's to address safety issues at this crossing. You flip one more page back. If you look at this image here, you can see in the left upper right, on the left hand upper top of the sheet, there's a road there that's being built in this picture. That road has been completed now, and it's creating an unsafe condition as the crosswalk is at a diagonal and also away from the intersection. So this safety project will shift the intersection, make it square to the road, and also bring it up so it'll be tied into, or not tied into, but be right next to the crossing there that's been built. They also have some other safety improvements that they're going to do as well. The amount of funding for this is just over $116,000. It's programmed in 2017. The city is planning on paying for this now because it's needed right now, so they will AC this using their own funds, and then it'll be reimbursed when the federal funds become available. So it's like to seek approval to add the D and RGW trail crossing at 200 North Street to the 2016-2020 STIP as detailed.
Move for approval. Second. Been moved and seconded that this action be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's approved.
Mr. Chair? Was that
Please.
Commissioner Barlow?
Yes.
Did you move that? Okay. That was, the motion was moved by Commissioner Barlow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just checking. I couldn't hear the.
Oh, the barrier?
No,
The motion was by Wayne.
Okay.
Second.
I know, he just said he couldn't hear, and that there was a barrier.
There was a barrier.
Okay, next item is 7A-3. This is the SR 270 Light South Connector Bridge Rehabilitation Project. This project is to replace one structure, repair the substructures on 5 other structures, as well as address deck overlays on 4 substructures. This was put out to bid, and there was didn't have enough funding on it. So the request is to add $900,000 additional funding to this project so that it can go back out to bid. The funding for this is coming from the unspent funds in the 2014 Bridge Preservation Maintenance Program. If you turn page back, you can see the location where this is at, where it sweeps on into West Temple.
This is one of those few projects where the bid actually came in higher than we had anticipated.
Yes. Yep.
Most of them come in lower, but this is one exception to that rule.
Correct.
Any particular reason? Does it have to do with the fact that we're dealing with structures here as opposed to?
Let's let Becky maybe address that. Come on up.
There were a couple of things that went into play on this one. We've got a little more limited bridge contractors throughout the state. Mountain View was advertising at the same time we tried to advertise this, and that's a pretty major structures portion of the project. Another aspect of it is it's a really heavy travel route, and so we have really high disincentives on their time portion of the contract. And I think that put a little too much risk on the contractors when they were looking at that. When we do pothole patching projects, there's a lot of variance when they've got asphalt on the structures of how much pothole patching they'll have to do, and so their number of days is a little higher risk on some of those types of projects. So it was a lot on the limitations of operations, and then also how much in the way of bridge work was advertising at the same time.
Okay.
So we've adjusted our limitations on it, and we're hoping that'll bring the price down some, and then we want to add this additional funding so that we make sure we can advertise it this time around.
All right.
Do you expect to have the same 2 bidders, or will it be different?
We're hoping we get additional bidders in this one now that some of the bigger projects have advertised and awarded, and all the contractors know.
Maybe more competition.
Mm-hmm. And also we're bumping it to next construction season, so they may not know how much work they have for next construction season, so this may be one of their priority projects, so it'll kind come in a little lower, where they haven't been awarded projects for next year yet.
When was this bid?
I believe it was about 4 or 5 months ago. I don't remember the exact date. Yeah.
So, you really do have to go back out to bid, you can't just accept the low bid for the first.
Yeah, we were hoping that by adjusting some of the limitations and also adjusting a couple other minor aspects of the project, we could bring the cost down as well. We were, I believe, 1.2 million over budget with what our low bid came in at. And it looked like there were a lot of items had a lot of variance to them, so we were wondering if they were trying to work that risk into other areas. So by adjusting that, we were hoping to bring the prices down.
So long as bringing the price down, you think this will make a better project out of it? Improve it some?
We're not adjusting the scope on the project. It's more the limitations and what we're charging the contractor as a disincentive on the project is what we're adjusting. And by getting additional bidders.
Well, we put it off for a year.
Becky, if I could say, Salt Lake City has a project going on the street as well. So part of the limitations that were involved with this project was to get this project done prior to them doing their project at the end of the summer. Because we weren't able to award this project and needed to come back and look at more money, Salt Lake City is going to continue ahead with their project, and we want to make sure that they're done before we come back with this.
I like
So
that.
that's some of the limitations that we removed that are helping the contractor out.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
One of the other aspects of helping it to next year is now that we're this late in the season with the full deck replacement, we've got to do precast deck panels and getting those cast and cured and ready to be placed on the bridge. They won't be able to do that within this construction season.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just add, if we get a good bid, we'll be back here to sweep it back.
Sweep it back.
So we'd like to seek approval to add $900,000 to the SR 279 South Connector Bridge Rehabilitation Project as detailed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this addition of $900,000. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Bill. That's also been approved.
Okay, next item is 7A-4. Region 3 is requesting to add $1.75 million to the SR 45 road collapse project. This is the project that's out in the Bernal area that on SR 45 where they had mined out the gilsonite material underneath the road, and so they were afraid of that collapsing. And so they had detoured around it. We had added money to this for them to do a study to find out what the fix would be and what that cost would be. And so this additional money will allow them to bridge that gap that's been created there. So the total project value on this with the additional funds would be $3.4 million. I forgot to bring my gilsonite again, so I apologize, but I have that little piece of gilsonite. You see the project location and also that image that we had of the undercut that was in that structure. Wish we could zoom up on this. It's interesting as you look at this picture here, you can see the hole that they cut, but you can see that gilsonite vein clear back across the valley as it cuts through that mountain there.
All the way through there, doesn't it?
Very interesting. All right, so we'd like to seek approval to add $1.75 million to the SR 45 road collapse project as detailed above.
Move to approve.
Second. Been moved and seconded that we make this addition to be able to repair the SR 45. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next item is 7A-5. This is an informational item. The reason this is information is it's the scope is not changing on any of these, and the funding is not changing on any of these. They just want to do all the work together at the same time. And so Region 3 is combining the three projects. The first one is SR 68. It's a maintenance project. If you go to the map, it is the blue line. That's that blue up there. And then the other one is SR 68. It is a center rumble strip, which is the green up there. And then the purple one is the Saratoga Springs to Stillwater project, and it's a rehabilitation project. And so all those scopes of funding would be combined into the SR 68 Saratoga Springs to Stillwater Parkway project, and they would close out the other two bids.
And this one is for information only.
Information.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Because the funding and everything stays at the same.
The Commission's already approved the scopes of those projects, so let you know that we're going to package it and advertise it
As one. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, next item is 7A-6. This is the CMPO project, sidewalk project in Milldale City on 100 and 200 North. These are two new projects. The Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization requests approval to add these to the STIP on April 11th. The CMPO board amended its TIP to include these projects and be funded with the CMPO TAP funds. The federal aid on this is just over $178,000 with the local match just under $13,000. The project is a Safe Routes to School type sidewalk project in Millville City. Turn the page back and see the location of these. There's a school being built just to on the left side of this image, and 100 North and 200 North will both multi-sidewalk projects will assist in that, getting kids there. So we'd like to seek approval to add the sidewalk project to the Millville City, in Millville City, on 100 and 200 North as detailed.
Move for approval. Second. Been moved and seconded that these sidewalk projects be approved, added to the STIP. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-7. This is the 2017 state program funds to add to the 2016-2020 STIP. You've seen, we talked about these and discussed this at the April workshop. On this diagram here, you can see the list of the state-funded programs. Nothing has changed since we last discussed it. We still have in there the highlighted new programs are changing how we put these programs out in red. Any questions on any of these?
No, we really discussed this. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve this, I guess it's the state program funds to be added to the STIP 2016 to 2020. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that also passes. I think that concludes that portion of, but you continue on here, Bill.
I continue on.
Additions to the website.
So this next one is 7B-1. So I'm going to take a page from Jason and we're going to try to run this live a little bit, so we'll see how this works for us. Knock on wood on there. As we did the STIP workshop, we had that flip book that we put out there on the website that had all the information from the workshop. And so Bob's going to open up the UDOT website. So I kind of want to show you, first of all, how we get there, where the public comment box is. We haven't received any comments yet, even though these have been listed out there, and so we encourage the public to take a look and make any comments on any of the recommendations that we have. So first of all, you just go to our UDOT website, which you can search UDOT, it should bring it up. There's our homepage, and then if you click on the Transportation Commission link, what that does, that brings you up to the page that has the flip book. And so let's go to STIP workshop and project list. So second one down. So here, this should bring up here in a second the flip book. If you scroll down a little bit, I want to show you where the comments is while I wait for that thing to load. right there's a public comment form, so if you click on that, you can put a comment in, put your name, phone number, email address, and hit submit. And that is emailed directly to myself and Bob. And so I know it's working because I did a test. So that is functioning. So any comments the public has, they can, this is where they can put it.
But you haven't received any?
I have not received any yet.
Okay.
Does they have a name and email address requirement? Can you just,
I think you specified that. I think it will just still come to us, but it just won't have there won't be a response back to you. Okay. I think I saw that flip book come up. Okay, go ahead and click on that. So the first thing I want to show, being we're on this particular item we're talking about is the federal list of projects and program values. And so what I wanted to go to first, if Bob, you can skip forward to page 2. Oh wait, no, I want to go to the table of contents first. That's what I want to do. So click on that. Let's make that larger. Just a little bit. Okay, what this table of contents does is it talks about the STIP process. But what I want to highlight for this particular item is the federal program. And so a lot of the federal dollars that we have go into the pavement program as well as the structures program. So those would be on 12 and 13, which we'll go to in a little bit, but not right now. And then also there's a federal program overview, which is on page 26. And we'll go look at that one next. But while you're still here, there's also a list of the projects that are funded with these funds. So the federal funds fund the choke point and other priorities. They fund the choke point projects, the pavement projects, bridge, the HSIP, TAP funds, the new freight program, REL, and then there's the other federal, the smaller pieces of federal funds are also listed there on page 130. So a list of all these program amounts as well as project lists that we covered in the STIP workshop are listed here. I thought for today I would just go to this page 26. Why don't you go ahead and slip to 26, which is the overall federal funding view. Right there. Expand that up. Okay, so what we have here is we have the total amount of federal funds that come into the state plus the match. So this is for 2016, 2017, and 2018 we have listed there. Okay, and 2019. Slip the slide to the left. So in each of those lists that I mentioned, the choke point list, this is the amount of funding that is programmed in choke point and others. You can see the amount that's going to bridges, the freight amount, how much goes to planning and research, as well as the safety, which is the HSIP program, plus the REL is included in that. The STP transportation set aside, as well as the Safe Route to School amount. In 16, we'd already programmed this one as the $3 million, that ended. So the balance. And then the balance, that's an important thing to talk about too, is the balance of the federal fund and the match went into the high volume roads and other priorities. And so with this information, we'd like to seek approval to add the list of federal projects and program values to the UDOT website and to the draft 2017-2021 STIP.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we add this to the website for additional public comment and availability. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll add that to the website.
Okay. Next item is 70-2. These are the Joint Highway Committee recommendations to be included in the draft 2017-2022 STIP as new projects. The Joint Highway Committee held their annual meeting. It was on April 22nd. They approved the subcommittee project recommendations to the following programs to be included in the new draft STIP. We'd like to put these out on the UDOT's website as well for public comment. And I need to just add one additional bullet on there. I missed one underneath state park access. We should also have the off-system bridge listed there. It's listed in the table, but it's not on the fact sheet. So I'll do that. If you go to the table, we have listed here, there's 3 different tables to look at here. The first table is the small urban funds. And so these go in small urban areas, and so we have small urban roads program, we have the TAP small urban, and the TAP non-urban, and in the non-urban committee, we have the STP non-urban projects, the off-system bridge, and then the last piece that they also approved through this committee is the state park access, which are state funds that come to the state of Utah through legislature. So I'd like to, I don't know if there's any questions on any of these projects.
Any questions for Bill on these tables?
What was the last item that was omitted from the fact sheet?
It was the off-system bridge. We didn't have that one listed in there.
With that correction, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve them.
Second. Moved and seconded that we approve this with the addition of the off-system bridge statement here on the fact sheet. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7B-3. This is the 2017-2021 UDOT Public Transit Program. In my group, we have the UDOT Public Transit team. They work together with local governments and private nonprofit agencies to come up with a list of capital improvements as well as operating expenses using FTA grants. These fall underneath three categories. It's seniors and persons with disabilities, as well as low-income individuals. There's an intercity bus, as well as fixed routes. Examples of some fixed routes would be like in Park City or Cache Valley Transit is another fixed route example. The transit program has been developed for 2017 through 2021. I should note that I've included in your information the Federal Transit Administration fact sheets for each of these different types of funds. The dollar amounts in there are national amounts, not our amounts.
Oh, too bad.
But they have good program descriptions, and so if you're interested, you could look at each of those program descriptions. So on the sheet that's been provided that has the list of the programs, so I can get really confused. The way this is broke out is it's broke out by year, and you can see we have 2017, 2018, 2019, and then 2020 and 2021. In the 2020 and 2021, we only have got out the program amounts, but 2017 through 2019 is the operating and capital expenses, or capital expense programs that I'd like to do. So if you look just under the year heading, that is the amount of FTA funds that are available in each of the categories. So you have the different sections of 5359, 5311, and 5310. If you look at just that first year, the fact sheets that are provided cover each of those different programs and talk about their purposes, but I'm not going to go into that today. So you can see underneath each of those you have how much goes to the small urban as well as the statewide, which is small urban as well as rural amounts. Just below that line is the amount that is available to program. And so if you look at the FTA section 5311, just under the 2017, so the purple box, you go down below, the amount to program is a little bit less than what the state receives. The reason that's a little bit less is down at the bottom. That is where we get the administrative fees for our group to run the program. And so the bottom shows the administrative costs to run the program. The top buckets show those agencies that are receiving the funds as well as the operating expenses. So any questions on this?
Move to approve, is that what you want?
That's what I like.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this detail to add these to the draft 2017-2022 STIP for public comment. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll add that to the STIP for public comment. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is 7C. Again, this is similar to the FTA side, but this is now FFA. So this is the programming for the statewide airport capital improvement program. Each year, the Division of Aeronautics puts together the 5-year program, so they've added on to the out year, as well as made any necessary changes in their program needed to be done. This is a planning level summary of projects and cost estimates for both FAA and the state-funded projects for the statewide airport system.
Just for information only, not for approval, right?
Yes, this is for information only. We'll be bringing this back next month for approval. So I've made copies, I should have mentioned, made copies of the transit program as well as the airport program out on the tables for those that need copies, don't have the electronic version. The other note is that projects listed in the ASIP, the funding is not guaranteed until the federal and state grants are actually issued. So that needs to be mentioned there. So on this list of projects,
When do we anticipate that they will be, that the funding will be made available?
those grants occur, I'm going to ask Matt how that works.
Matt, come up and introduce yourself for the record.
Matt, I'm with the Division of Aeronautics. The grants are issued project at a time, so the sponsor will submit a scope of work, we'll approve the scope, the funding would be in place, and then the FAA issues their grant, and then we issue a state grant to go along with that for helping with match.
Okay, so it doesn't all happen at once, it happens.
Project by project.
Project, okay.
But this is an aeronautics question. I should know this though. How much does it cost to rent the state plane?
Matt's not in operations, but
Oh, sorry.
Shane will look it on the website right now and respond. It's on the website.
I know I should know that.
So unless you know it.
I'm not exactly sure, but it's on the website. It's different for the 8-passenger plane. There's the 8-passenger, the 6-passenger, and then they have a smaller
Yeah.
Cessna.
I know, for the
We will find that for you here.
Let's make
Thank
it up.
you.
No.
Yeah, how would I know? I'll never find it on.
1,300 feet tall.
Give her a number.
1,312 feet.
Yeah.
So on these projects though, you can see what the funding breakout. You have the federal amount at the top, as well as the state and the sponsor, and then the total. And then these go by year 16 through 2021. Any other questions on
The state amount is equal match with the federal?
It's not an equal match. We might have to explain how they divide that out.
You have the rental rate.
You do?
As far as the match goes, on the federal dollars, it's 90.63% FAA dollars, and 9.7% match.
Call it 90 and 10.
So it's real similar. On the state projects, it's 90-10.
Okay.
So real similar to 90-10.
Locals pay the federal match.
The locals we pay half. The state fund, we pay half the local match with state funds. And then on the state fund projects, the locals will pay their 10%.
Okay.
So if you'd like to take the Cessna to Moab, just you and the pilot,
I've
that's
actually-
$195 an hour. I'm sure we can free that one up. The 6-passenger is $935 an hour, and the larger 8-passenger is $1,200 an hour.
So we have to
2, 9, and 12.
Now, I have one more question.
The legislation that Senator Harper passed 4 or 5 years ago, you can correct me, but it required that our, what we charge, we recoup the operating costs.
So you have to be a state employee to rent the plane?
The University of Utah hospital is probably our biggest user.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the ASIP?
Questions on the capital budget? We'll see this again next month then, Bill?
For approval.
Yeah.
For approval. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Lyle, I think we've got some pieces of property to buy.
Hello, Commissioners. Today we have 5 applications for funding to review with you today. First, we'd like to go through the budget, and if I can direct you to the tab number 8. The first thing that we have there is our balance forward is $12.9 million. We've had revenues. It looks like we have 3 weeks worth of revenues, about $288,000. We purchased the HBR Net property in Orem, and we had some miscellaneous expenses that netted out to $260,000, which leaves us in a fund balance of 12.9. And then we've already obligated about $9.5 million worth of funds for us to pursue acquisitions on various properties. The status there is in the far right column. Do you have any questions on any of these that we're working on currently? Okay. Then the unobligated fund balance is about $3.4 million. And we have 5 applications today totaling about $830,000. So if those are all approved, we would still have $2.6 million unobligated. Any questions on the fund balance?
On the obligated but not dispersed, is that list longer than usual, or is it just?
No, it's about normal. But if you look at just the ones that were approved last month and the month before, that's 2/3 of the list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And those, you'll notice the status is they're still preparing documents for us to be able to.
Wasn't it in Moab, we had like
Yes.
7 or 8, something like
Yeah.
that?
So that's a fairly normal size list, and the relative youth of most of them are appropriate. Okay, so if we can go into the tab marked 8A, the first application we have is actually from the region. It's to relocate an easement and a billboard off of Gentile Street in Layton, off of Gentile and I-15. It's in the southeast quadrant of the overpass there where Gentile goes over I-15. The project is about 10-ish years out. However, there's a WINCO going in there, and they're trying to do some things to foster some economic development. And it is in the sign companies and the developers' best interests, and even to a lesser degree, UDOT's best interest, to work with them to relocate the sign now instead of waiting 10 years from now and seeing what the price of moving a sign will be then. And so, as we review this,
Development that will occur in the meantime.
yes, and it may not be able to be relocated, and purchasing a sign is several multiples of this amount. We reviewed it in the advisory council, and we believe that this is an appropriate use of funds to make this happen. $154,500, and I'm here before you with a affirmative recommendation to obligate those funds so that we can work with the sign company to begin that relocation.
I move that we do that with the sign company. I have to tell you, though, Gentile Street, for the first couple of years I lived here, I thought it was Gentiles.
Second motion.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this $154,000. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is item 8B, Corey and Kimberly Green, and this is still in Region 1 in Hooper. And this is a single-family residence. Mr. Green purchased the property for his father so that he was up in years and experiencing some health. And he purchased the home so that he could bring his father in and keep an eye on him. And before his grand plan could come to fruition, his father unfortunately passed away. So he's asked us to. It's funded for 2023. Actually, not funded, but it's in the plan for 2023 1800 North project. And if you look at the map there, it's right there on the corner of 250 West and 1800 North. And we had it appraised, and we would just basically turn it into a rental in the interim. And the value is $130,000, and I come to you again with an affirmative recommendation to obligate money so that we can purchase this home and help Mr. Green not have to make 2 house payments.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this home for $130,000. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next one is item 8C, Steve and Belinda Nebeker. And they're in West Point, 525 North, 200 West. It's, again, a single-family residence. They've lived there for over 3 decades, and they want to sell their house now instead of waiting for the project. It's on a half-acre lot. It appraised for $245,000, and it's on the SR 108 corridor, but not in the currently funded portion. And if you look at the second map in, you see that we have a currently funded project that goes to a cross street, and right on the other side of that cross street is their home. So, again, it's been recently partially updated. We would convert it into a rental until the next segment of that project is funded. I come to you again with an affirmative recommendation for obligation of $245,000 to purchase this home.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this home for $245,000. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next one is item 8D, Ronald and Shirley Moss. And this is on the West Davis corridor. It's in the preferred alignment. It's a piece of vacant land at 2904 South, 2000 West in Syracuse. And actually, they have a home on the property, and they want to list it. And if you look at the map, it's a 10.5 acre piece of property. The home fronts on 2000 West, and then they have a big piece of property in the back. And so, if you look at the corridor, the way it swings through, it swings through the middle of the back half, about 4.75 acres. There is a potential for a triangle there, and they said no, they would prefer to be squared up, and it also gives us some room for a tiny bit of buffer in case we need.
Yes.
Yeah. The back 4.75 acres appraised for $226,000, or about $47,500 per acre, and the same price that we say on all of our properties in the corridor that's the subject of environmental impact study is that it's not going to predispose our decision, and in the event that it doesn't happen, we can just sell it back in the open market.
The home is on the front portion of the land, right?
Pardon?
The home that you're referring to is the front portion, not the back.
Yes, and we're not going to affect that. We're just basically going to sever the back 4.75 acres so that that frees up them to sell the 5.25 acres or 5.76 acres that they have remaining.
Move for approval.
Second. Moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this home. Well, I guess it's just vacant property.
It's vacant land.
For $225,700. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, that has been approved.
The final application that I have for your review today is item 8E, iWorks, and that's down in Region 4 on the SR9 corridor, where the SR9 and the future Southern Parkway are going to intersect. And if you look at the map there, it's 3 acres of vacant, landlocked ground, and the current owner is iWorks, and it's been appraised $75,000 because it doesn't have any access. So that's $25,000 an acre right there at almost perfectly where that future interchange intersection is going to be. And so we think this is a pretty good value right now, and I come to you with a positive request for approval and obligate funds so that we can work with this property owner and bank to make this purchase.
I make a motion to approve the property name of the place, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this land down on SR9. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Wow, I guess we've approved all 5 of these.
I just want to make a comment on his GQ look though. Look at the socks. Show the socks slide, please.
Yeah,
Diana got a good job.
That'll do his own clothes.
Linda, I think you're our last agenda item here, other than information items, our scenic byway amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for bearing with us all.
Glad to do it. It's good for me to come out to pull up often. I don't get out here often enough. My aunt used to live in Dudway, and I think that you're through Twilla to go out to Dudway, but Johnson passed. I don't know when you can out So just a little background. This is just for commission's review, not action. The department has filed an emergency rule, the scenic byway rule, and so I'll go through a little bit of background about why we filed an emergency rule. So just as a little background, the code creates the scenic byway committee to be able to administer the scenic byway program in the state. They have the responsibility for designating, nominating, and promoting scenic byways throughout the state. UDOT is a member of the Scenic Byway Committee. Tourism is the chair within GOED. We have, however, the statutory responsibility for drafting any rules associated with the Scenic Byway Committee. So that's why I'm here today. In the 2016 session, the legislature adopted a bill sponsored by Representative Noel that changed the way, created an alternate route for a property owner to be able to request to segment a portion of the scenic byway. So the idea is that you have the entire byway that meets the definition to be a scenic byway. A property owner may own a piece of property along that route that maybe doesn't meet the state definition of being a scenic byway. And so there currently is a provision in code where they could segment their property by going through their local legislative body. Representative Noel sponsored a bill that created an alternate route. So the property owner could go to their local legislative body to segment it, or they could come to the Scenic Byway Committee itself to segment that portion of the byway. And so what the bill did is it just provided a way for the committee to hear that. So we had to, because the bill took effect on May 10th, we had to draft a rule immediately and get it implemented immediately so that property owners would know how to request a segmentation. So that's what this rule does. That's why we had to file an emergency rule so property owners would have a process to follow to be able to segment their property. By having an emergency rule in place, this gives us 120 days now to go through the normal rulemaking process with full public comment for us to be able to create a permanent rule. But we needed a process in place for property owners to use immediately when the bill took effect. So I'll just kind of walk you through what this does. The first couple pages, do you have it? Do they have it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The first couple pages are just some definitions, clarification, that the committee can call a meeting to hear a request for agency action. It's actually 3 pages through in subsection 7 that actually has part of the heart of it. You go to the next, keep going. There, right there, subsection 7. This is really a lot of the heart of what the rule is going to do. So if you look at subsection 7, what we did is we talked to attorneys, as I talked to attorneys that are familiar with the Administrative Procedures Act. We determined that really the way to be able to do this is by a request for agency action. So when the property owner determines that they want to segment their property, they would file a request for agency action with GOED. We have them filing it with GOED because GOED, through tourism, chairs the committee. So they would file a request for agency action. We're working with GOED now to create a form so that when a property owner wants to submit a request for agency action, they just have a 1-page form, they fill out the form. Prior to filling out the request for agency action, they have to specify why they think their property doesn't meet the definition to be scenic byway. So that's going to be the heart of their application. Then they will file the request for agency action to the department, to GOED, with a copy to the department. If you look at subsection C, as provided in code, the segmentation request takes effect 60 days after the request is filed, unless the committee holds a hearing, determines that they don't agree, that they think that segment of property is scenic. If they disagree with the segmentation request, they can challenge the segmentation request, and as provided in code, they have to demonstrate to an administrative law judge why they think that property is actually scenic. And so that would go to a hearing for an administrative law judge. The ALJ will hear from the committee, will hear from the property owner about whether it's scenic or non-scenic, and then the ALJ will make a determination whether or not the property meets the definition. So all that was it.
This really is an attempt to allow people to opt out of being a scenic byway.
Right.
So this gives them the procedures by which they can at least request that they not be included.
Right. Right.
And the reason they would want that is that otherwise they're restricted on what they can do.
What they can do with the
There
property.
are some restrictions on what they can do with their property when they're in a scenic byway. So there was some concern that going through the local legislative body was too slow, too cumbersome. So this alternate route was created for property owners.
Gives them a shortcut.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Gives them a shortcut directly.
Yeah, right.
And the 60-day window.
Yeah, and the 60-day window. I will point out that the code requires the Scenic Byway Committee, if they choose to challenge the segmentation request, the code requires that they demonstrate to the ALJ why it shouldn't be scenic. Now, part of the issue is, as we've talked with attorneys that are familiar with administrative procedures, the committee will be incredibly hard-pressed to get the request, have a committee meeting to be able to consider it, a public meeting to consider it, take it, find an ALJ that the property owner and the committee will agree on, get an ALJ, have a hearing within 60 days. So it is very possible that the ALJ will issue their decision at some point after the 60 days, but the committee is required in code. The committee just has to demonstrate to the ALJ within the 60 days why they think it's scenic.
You don't have to have the final judgment.
That's the way that we're interpreting the code, because we can't force the ALJ to act within a certain period of time. It was going to be very difficult to hire someone. So what GOED is doing right now, we encourage them to work with state procurement to create a pool of qualified ALJs that are ready to hear these kind of cases, so that we would be able to act very quickly. So our intent is we'll create a pool, we'll have the ALJs, and then we'll be able to pull out of that pool when there's a hearing, and the property owner would be able to look at that pool and come to an agreement on who the ALGA will be to hear those. The intent is to find somebody who's geographically located near the property that is being requested for presentation. I think there's going to be a little, it's going to be a little challenging to find qualified ALJs throughout the state, but that's what we're going to try to do.
They're going to do this. You answered a question I was going to ask you. The other thing is, one thing I wasn't sure of, the Scenic Byway Committee, do they have to be unanimously in accordance to do this, or can you opt out that you don't agree with them?
I think that, as I recall, the rules for the Scenic Byway Committee, I don't believe that they require a unanimous vote of the committee to be able to take action. Scenic Byway Committee, there could be those tourism representatives that are representing the local area may end up being a little concerned about the segmentation, but we'll see how this goes. Right now, there's 2 or 3 roads that already have parcels that have been segmented just in the existing process. Around Garden City, Logan Canyon, outside Oregon Canyon, and around Naples on its property.
Jensen.
Is it in Jensen?
Yes.
You with them?
Yeah.
I did it.
I know. Great.
Well, it was,
Yeah.
I better not talk about it.
It's a public meeting. We have open meetings.
Well, the question is, I've never heard of a pool of ALJs. I've only known of ALJs that are connected with a particular department or commission, like tax commission or workers' compensation.
Right.
Or something like that. Are there free-floating administrative law judges or whatever?
So
Who do
we
they
don't-
work for?
We don't use ALJs at UDOT. We don't use it. And so that's when tourism came in and spoke with me about, how do we do this? How do you use an ALJ? I don't know, with the state procurement. So they've been working with state procurement to get a list essentially.
So they're creating.
Yeah, they're creating pools of ALJs who will respond to the RFP, hopefully respond to the
So they're
RFP.
probably, I'm guessing, not employed by any agency.
I don't know who will end up in that pool.
Freelancers?
Well, we don't know who's going to respond, but GoEd through tourism is going to have to pay for the ALJs. They're not going to be on staff, they're just going to be paid as they hear cases. So it's kind of like on a retainer of some kind. So this is going to be pretty interesting to see how this all works out, but
Kind of like mediators.
Right.
People who deal with it.
it will be very interesting to see how this works out.
Any other questions for Lorna?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Has there been any applications to find the property owners already?
No.
It's just a futuristic thing.
Yeah. Since the bill took effect on May 10, we felt we needed to have a rule in place immediately so that if a property owner wanted to take advantage of this new law, that we had processes in place for them to take advantage of it.
So the emergency rule is in place now,
Yes.
and it will be replaced by this.
No, this is the emergency rule.
You will have another opportunity to review the final.
Okay.
So now, under state law, you can file an emergency rule. You have to explain why you need an emergency rule, either for the health or welfare, and it can be because you need to do it immediately to implement the law. And the law's in place, so we need a rule to support it. So we filed the emergency rule, and now we have 120 days to create a permanent rule. So we'll go through the normal rulemaking process, we'll go out for the public comment, we'll get, so the final rule may look different from this.
I was just going to ask that question. Do you expect that this will largely be the final rule?
I think so, but, we're going to go through that public input and get public feedback.
Do we ever get
on what
public
we have.
input on these things?
Yes.
We will on this.
We do. We get feedback from scenic byways.
Okay.
So then I will bring the permanent, when we have the draft permanent rule, I'll bring it back here to the commission for your review.
But that'll have to be done before September then? 120 days.
120 days.
Okay. Well, we'll revisit this subject.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Any other questions or comments, Linda?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to our informational items. FHWA, Ivan, thank you for being here yesterday and today. And
How are you?
it's always good to visit with you and see you. What report did you give us?
Yes, well, good morning, Mr. Commissioner and Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Yeah, it's been a kind of a slow month for us on the federal side, but I do have 3 items to present to you today. The first one is just to announce that the UDOT received a Accelerated Innovation Deployment grant in the amount of $626,000. And that grant will be used to develop a system that will allow for the automation of the way contractors are registered and the way DVEs are certified and pre-qualified for our project. So I understand that it's going to be piloted on 5 projects here in Utah. So again, just the money to help develop a system that will allow for automated registration and certification. The second item to bring to your attention, as you know, our Secretary of Transportation, Anthony Fox, one of his highest priorities is to address times or examples where highways have divided communities. So that's one of his highest priorities. If you ever hear our Secretary speak, he's usually talking about that and safety. So he recently announced a challenge called the Every Place Counts Design Challenge. And it is aimed at local jurisdictions and tribes. And basically, they can apply to participate in this challenge, and then if they are selected, then the UDOT will put all of our resources at their service to help them address examples where highways may have divided their communities. So that challenge was announced on May 4th, and did not write down when the deadline for submittal is, but they will select 4 finalists and then provide them with the resources necessary to address their particular need. And the last item I have for you today is on April 25th, we issued guidance on median barriers. And this came about after there was an accident that took place in Davis, Oklahoma back in September of 2014. A semi-truck crossed the median on I-35 in Oklahoma and hit a bus that was carrying 18 softball players from North Central Texas College. And 4 people were killed, all the other ones were injured. So that event led to a National Transportation Safety Board investigation, and they produced a report with several recommendations. And one of the recommendations was to, first of all, to share the details of the accident with the state DOT, so they were aware of what were the circumstances that caused that accident. And also to share, one of the things that Oklahoma DOT did was to develop guidelines on when and where to put these median barriers, cable median barriers specifically. So we at Federal Highways and the National Transportation Safety Board considered what Oklahoma DOT developed good practice. So we're sharing that information with all the DOTs nationwide, so they can consider that and see if they need to upgrade their median barrier guidelines. So I know I've seen cable guardrails all over Utah, and I'm sure you have good guidelines in place, but I'm sure Utah will look at what Oklahoma did develop and determine if there's a need for adjustment to your guidelines. So those are the 2 items I wanted to present to you today.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ivan at the FHWA?
This isn't exactly for Ivan, but is there a tradition why Federal Highways goes last on the budget? Would you want to be higher?
I have no problem where I'm at. It kind of forces me to stay here and then So
I didn't want to put
yeah.
it that
And I bring snacks now, so I'm good. So I have to get for candy like I did last time.
We appreciate
thanks,
being
Ryan.
here for the whole meeting, I just
Yeah.
wondered.
No, please don't change anything on our behalf.
Just think that it was saved the best for last.
Yes, that's
Thank you very much. Let's have some committee reports. Nagi, let's start over here with you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the CIB meeting last week. They had a 13 application, 10 of them new and 3 of them supplemental, which is going to be funded next month at the Monticello meeting. I also attended a meeting with the COG Mayors Association, and they're talking about the local challenge, trying to provide transportation from St. George all the way to Zion National Park. And next week I'll attend the meetings of the Zion Corridor Mayor's Luncheon to talk about the same concept.
All right. Good, thank you very much.
I attended with you the Corridor Preservation Advisory Committee meeting.
I wasn't there.
Well, that's right, you were.
I was in China.
Sorry about that. I did attend. We had a quorum. And we need the recommendations that Lyle presented for us for action today.
Good, thank you.
I wasn't able to attend JPAC, but I defer to Shane Marshall to give a brief report on
It was a great meeting, you missed it. We met in Cedar Hills out of Utah County. ETA came and they talked about some initiatives they have going. You heard some of them. They are working on a more permanent plan for their bus routes. So like they have fixed routes for their trains, they would like to say there's some fixed routes for their bus routes so that cities and counties can plan around those. UDOT gave an update on SB 80 and the impacts to our program. We talked about the STIP workshop and we talked about repurposing earmarks. At that time, we told the committee that we had 37 million. So I probably owe them,
that's a little lower now.
yeah, I probably owe them an email to clarify that now we have 4 million.
Okay,
that.
thanks.
And then I discussed this with you, Mr. Chair, that when Mr. Kramer comes on, that maybe we relook at the committee assignments.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Danny?
Well, I attended the Transcom meeting, and in contrast to the one that was held the quarter before, it was a huge number of people. There was in the beginning of the year. This last one, I think we barely had enough people to vote, but all the business that was taken in Transcom has been covered in this meeting today, so they're all current with everything that took place there. And UTA, of course, come in and made their report this morning. One thing I think I did not hear in the report is they have a traveling board meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, the 25th, down in Utah County. They're not a statewide organization, so they only go north, Brigham City, into here, into Tooele, into Utah County. And they're having a meeting with all the elected officials from Utah County talking about the future of UTA in there, and what those 25 communities might want or might not want. It's a pretty good thing. I will attend Regional Growth next Thursday, because that's when it is held, and I believe that the committee meeting discussion we had this morning about UTA's committee meetings, it was a mystery to me. I was hearing stuff I didn't know anything about because I've been there 6 years or so, 5 years, whatever it's been. And I thought they were always open meetings because there was always people coming and going, and there was always people asking questions from the audience. I was curious why that's so, but what they were open meetings. And
Yeah, they acknowledged they were open, but they closed them now.
no, I just didn't let them, they were yesterday. That's what I said. After our discussion here, I'm confused because there would be no decisions made. There was only recommendations that come from them. And the recommendation was to go to the full board for full discussion and disclosure. But the committee's never made any decisions. It's not the 2 committees I sit on.
It's not the decision making, it's the fact that
Yeah.
discussions about business. And they're evidently now not going to be open to the public. That's what's being reported, and that's what they indicated today.
Well, I thought Jerry said that they were gonna be like work sessions like the cities have before they have city council.
And those are open.
And those are.
Those are open.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said yesterday. Anyway, maybe I'm making it more conflicting than it is, but it's not a bad thing. Anybody can walk into those meetings, and they do. That's what I thought.
Well, then I'm confused, because I heard him say, basically, that's how it used to be, but now we're not gonna have.
Not gonna have that.
Well, it used to be, wasn't that last month or last year? It must have been 10 years ago.
Did I, this year?
No, that's what's been reported the last 2 or 3 days.
Well, the media's kind of taken it off line a little bit.
Well, but that's what Jerry said today. Committee meetings are no longer going to be open, that's what he said.
Okay, well, that's what it is.
Well, he said, I thought what I heard was the committee meetings gone away. They're not having committee meetings. They'll have task force meetings and group meetings, but they're not calling them committee meetings. That's what I heard him say. Well, maybe we got a problem with semantics.
Probably semantics, but those kinds of meetings in the public interest are supposed to be public and open. That's what I thought. But anyway, that's not for us to determine, I guess, Gabe.
I attended the Joint Highway Committee meeting, and we approved the recommendations for the meeting here today. Remember when we visited southern Utah and went up the canyon and looked at the famous bridge that crosses the, what is that, Rockville? And they wanted us to see it because they need money to
realign that?
Well,
To rehab it, so they wanted to keep looking at it.
Well, about a month before the Joint Highway Committee, Rockville petitioned the Joint Highway Committee to take it off of the list. And the bottom line is they decided they don't want to refurbish it. They want to keep it as an antique, and that they'll take responsibility for it and for any future bridges that need to cross if they need to build a new bridge.
Interesting.
So that was, you know, the committee was pretty forceful. If we delete this, then we don't want you coming back to us asking for a new bridge someplace further downstream. Whether you can hold them to that or not.
Yeah, they're going to rehab the bridge. So what they did is they took the funding that was there to replace it and change it to be a rehabilitation project. So, yeah, they're going to rehab it, keep the historical nature of the bridge, reduce
But
the
not
cost.
replace it.
Right, okay.
But UDOT is still responsible to make sure it's safe for the public to travel.
Yeah, our responsibility is to inspect it and advise the local on their bridge what the safety upgrades they should make, and to have it posted if they're not appropriately, upgraded. So safety is our responsibility.
So we don't have to worry about liability issues then. Is it?
Well, is there good?
He's trying to recruit some else.
Depends on what lawyer you find.
We must be a consultant.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're working with the facility and get sued.
That's what I'm afraid to say.
Yeah.
I get that.
Deep pockets.
Well, I think that brings us to just the information about the next meetings, but I do want to say this about committee assignments. We are adding a 7th commissioner here within a short period of time. So I think it's time for us to review the committee assignments. I have a listing of all the committee assignments that have been made, and I will be reviewing that and be talking to each of you individually about your current assignments. And then with the addition of Lou coming onto the commission, we'll probably scramble those assignments, but we'll do that in conjunction with conversations with UDOT. No particular hurry on that, but it's something that we will do over the next 2 or 3 months. so that you'll know that we'll be doing that so that we can get the assignments spread out. There may be some changes in the assignments, but that's something that we will do over the next 2 or 3 months as we get to a full complement of commissioners.
When you're done with that. Okay. I don't know if anyone has a discussion on that. I just wanted to inform the commission that the legislative auditors have been in our offices since October, beginning of October of last year. Shane and I met with their team this week.
No, last week.
Last week.
Wow.
Where's by? We met with their team. It was a combination of fiscal audit and performance audit. So they've spent quite a bit of time on this. They expect to issue a report in the next, I'll say 2 to 4 weeks. And the process is we get a draft confidential report, we prepare some responses back, then it goes to the legislative audit committee, and it'll be presented at that committee. That will be essentially when it becomes a public audit. I'll just talk in generalities. There were some good things that came out of it. Some issues were identified that we have opportunities for improvements, but there's, I'll say, nothing scary there. So I felt very good about how it went. I think there's going to be opportunities for us to make some improvements. Some of them involve the commission's relationship with the performance audit process. So I think that'll add a little bit more, it'll be better for us the way that they're suggesting we do it.
Okay. So we'll wait till we get their report back and then we can review those.
We'll get the report. It'll be my responsibility to respond. It'll stay there, and then it'll go back to the legislature for them to present to the audit committee, and it'll be public.
Okay. That part that concerns the way the commission works with UDOT, we'll need to discuss.
Yeah, once the audit is public.
Yeah, once we know what's public.
So it was the legislative auditor, not the state auditor?
This was the legislative auditor. The state auditor audits, does our financial audits every year. We have that every year. This was, I don't think we've had a performance audit for the legislative audits since 2010.
There are a couple of them set in on the CMAC meeting.
Yes.
2 times ago, I think.
Yeah, they've been really interested in what goes on, and they've looked at every area within the department. They've even attended we have a employee advisory committee where we meet with our employees and get input back and forth. They've even attended that. Very comprehensive.
Good. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Carlos?
No, thank you.
Shane?
If we could discuss Shane.
Yes.
Okay. So Terry's trying to figure out exactly how we want to go about the tour, the staff update, and the commission meeting. She was putting together a plan to do a one-day, starting in Orem, driving out to Shane, doing the road tour on the way out, have the commission meeting, and then go on the way back. But we can do a 2-day. It's really up to the commission. We just need to get tie it down a little bit. It's going to be 1 or 2 days.
Now, I think some of you were involved in the discussion yesterday with Terry. And I think I got the impression that everybody preferred the 2-day as opposed to the 1-day. And that's what I think that was the input. Gail, was that?
She wanted to do.
She wanted to do the one.
Canyon and Davis Canyon. I guess you could do that in 1 day, but that pretty well is a day.
It's a full day.
Without a meeting.
Yep.
So.
I think the only commissioners, I don't think Danny or Meg were part of that conversation, so maybe they're interested.
Sure.
We're fine with 2.
But now, do we leave, are we going to be in Heber? Is that right? That's where I was confused. You talked about that?
She said she will base it at the Heber.
What she's, I guess what she's now said is, if we want a 2-day, then we'll figure out a 2-day agenda. We don't have an agenda specifically in front of us, starting in Heber or ending in Duchesne or wherever else. We don't have those details. The question, I think, is one or 2-day meeting in August.
My hope is have the meeting with Duchesne. Don't have the meeting at Heber or, it's already advertised.
Yeah, we don't want to change
those.
Well, that won't change.
So if it's 1 day, it's Heber.
Duchesne.
No, we would still have the meeting in Duchesne regardless of how many days.
Oh, okay, period.
Yeah, we would drive from Heber to Duchesne, have the meeting, and then drive back. If it's a 2-day thing, we'll need to figure out the logistics of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's,
It is a long.
determination is it a, if it's a 2-day thing, then we don't have the agenda yet. We'll figure that out.
Okay.
I drive those roads too.
That's pretty good idea what they look like.
Okay, let's get back to her and say a 2-day.
Okay, we'll do.
On Duchesne. Our next meeting will be in June in Logan, 16th and 17th. So we'll hear from Chris. Details of that, but everybody should plan on that June 16th and 17th in Logan.
Danny, do you have on your calendar, Transcom on the 16th? We're gonna have a call.
I'll tell you just 1 minute when you bring up the
We'll have to
calendar.
work that out.
There's 2 a year that always conflict, you're right about that.
Well, I mean, if it does, you just have to make a decision.
We'll figure it out.
before you attend. And
Transcom's the 16th,
that would be the day, that would be the day.
and that's one of the 2 that every year we always have a conflict. And I know that the regional council is not gonna change that, because that's a big body, you have to move a lot of people around, change that meeting.
So you just have to make a decision whether you attend Transcom or the tour on the 16th.
Well,
The commission meeting will be the 7th.
I've seen the agenda that's pre-posted for that. It's gonna be a fairly short meeting anyway.
Is it in the morning?
No, it's in the afternoon.
It's 2 o'clock.
It's right on top.
Okay.
We'll figure it out between the we send and if Danny wants to go on tour that.
Okay. All right, potential conflict there, but otherwise we'll see everybody in June. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Just a question, Carlos, are you gonna be involved